Home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City.
Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Music means Mike Gill ain't here today. I almost feel like that Cheech and Chong skit where they run up to the door and say, "Hey, Dave, you there? Dave ain't here." Yes, Mike is with his baseball team. They're on their way to the World Series. Best of luck to them. Safe travels. We are live here on 97.3 ESPN Radio. Josh Hennig hanging out with you after the Phillies again failed to do their job. I mean, what a bunch of losers this team has turned into. And I thought Dave Gallagher had some interesting comments as a former big leaguer yesterday with Mike Gill. We're going to play back some of that audio because, boy, for a major league player, a guy who was around the league for a decade, to see some of the things that Dave Gallagher said yesterday, it was a pretty huge indictment of your Philadelphia Phillies. We'll get to that, plus the latest from Eagles training camp. We are counting down the days to Eagles, Ravens, this Saturday. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick calling all the action here in your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Also, the full Sixers schedule drops at 3 o'clock today. We've been getting a little bit here, a little bit there. So we'll get to that as well coming up on the show. We got Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers. We'll review the highlights of the Sixers schedule with us coming up at 3:30. Andrew Dicecco for football at 4. He is at Eagles training camp today. And of course, that is powered by the Inside the Bird podcast. Phillies fastball. By the way, there is rain in the forecast for this Philly Dreams game tonight. So you know what might happen? Someone like Billy Schwein is going to try to pop on the game tonight and might not even be on because it might rain in Iowa. It's on Netflix. Yes, I got Billy Schwein here in the studio. He's not even going to watch it. You got Netflix? You sure? You might want to go double check. Exactly. If anyone out there trying to find the Phillies game tonight, it is on Netflix. Although it might rain tonight, the makeup day is tomorrow. Talk about more drama for the Phillies to get to. Oscar Budejen and Phillies fastball coming up at 5:30. All that and more still to come. Nick Sirianni's press conference. And you guys out there on the White Horse RV text board at 609-403-0973. Yes, White Horse RV text board in Williamstown and Galloway. Your RV adventure starts here at White Horse RV, 609-403-0973. And I have to start with the Phillies fiasco, we'll call it. Because I went home and rewatched the game last night because that's kind of one of the things that I do. You know, one of my approaches to doing the job that we do is a little different than Mike Gill. Mike doesn't like the rewatch games. I love the rewatch games because I feel like there's always something that I miss. There's always something that happens in the game that I might have overlooked or missed. And for me, I'm rewatching the game last night, and the biggest takeaway that I had from that game last night, just eyeballing it without looking at the stats again, before I pulled up the box score, before I pulled up the game recap, before I did any of that stuff, the big takeaway that I had from that game was how shocked I was at how poorly the Phillies handled everything. It's bad enough that Zach Wheeler, for the second time in the last 3 starts, has looked rough. But then you saw the look on his face when Caleb Cotham came out of the dugout of just utter disgust. Like, what are you doing out here? Like, what are you going to tell me? That's a bad look. It's also a bad look that the Phillies are 500 since the MLB trade deadline. And for a team that basically went to the discount rack for bullpen pitching and went out and got a contact hitter, may I remind you what this Phillies offense has done since the trade deadline? In the games they have won, they are averaging just under 6 runs a game in their 5 wins. In their 5 losses, they have scored 5 runs once. And they have scored in their last 2 games a total of 1 run. The offensive inconsistencies of this team continues to haunt them. Their inability to be consistent at the plate. It's turning into something that is, I think, very disturbing. And my mind goes back to, so for those who didn't hear, and we'll get deeper into this a little bit later, Dave Dombrowski was on John Heyman's podcast. And when Dombrowski said this, I'm watching the players approach at the plate last night. And I'm watching how they are handling the at-bats and the moment to moment of the game. And I go back to this comment by Dave Dombrowski to John Heyman. And I can't get this out of my head because I don't know about you guys listening on 97.3 ESPN, watching on 97.3 ESPN on YouTube, watching on YouTube and X at 97.3 ESPN, wherever you're catching the show. We appreciate you tuning in. This comment by Dave Dombrowski still sticks in my head after watching this team for 2 straight nights struggle at the plate.
We haven't played quite as well overall from a record perspective as I thought we would. It's been a little bit more of a struggle. We started off poorly, as we know. We were 9-19 at one time. So that was hard to explain based upon our personnel. We just came out slow out of the gate.
He mentioned how he was surprised. Not the first time he said it. No. A little bit later in the pod, he said he was surprised again.
Over the last 6 weeks, couple months, we've been basically a 500 type club. Keep looking for us to really get it all together at one time. At times, our starting pitching has been absolutely outstanding, particularly our big 3. Our bullpen's been up and down. We got a tremendous closer, but been up and down. And so I think probably the biggest surprise for me is how we've scuffled to score runs on a consistent basis. We've been better over the last, I'd say, month even in that regard. But early in the year, we were near the bottom, and it really kind of surprised me because we have a lot of good offensive players. But as a whole, we just didn't click.
He keeps saying how surprised he is. And this goes back to the complaint that I have had about the Phillies president of baseball operations for months and months here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash. I've been saying for months, I think Dave Dombrowski is the ultimate problem. Dave Dombrowski keeps thinking this team on paper is going to be different on the field. Even though JT Realmuto is aging, even though Trey Turner has the most errors of any shortstop in Major League Baseball right now, even though this lineup has shown you again and again how streaky and inconsistent they are, Dombrowski is still surprised. To which I say, why are you the only person who is surprised? Let me ask all of you listening out there, tuning into the show on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle, streaming live on YouTube and X at 973. Let me ask all of you out there, are you surprised that the Phillies offense continues to struggle? Dave Dombrowski is. I know I'm not. I've seen this team choke in the postseason 1, 2, 3 years in a row. I've seen this team have poor approach again and again. And to paraphrase Becky Lynch, it's not just me saying it. It's Dave Gallagher every week on the Sports Bash here with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. It's Doug Glanville on ESPN Radio saying it on Sunday Night Baseball and on SportsCenter Television. You know who else is saying it? It's Ruben Amaro Jr. on the television broadcast and on the Philly Show podcast. Those are just 3 examples of I'm not just saying it. Everyone is saying it. But Dave Dombrowski doesn't see it. I don't know about you guys, but by the time this month ends, if this team still continues to scuttle along and still struggles to find their way, you know what's going to happen? The Phillies are going to become an afterthought. Because when the Eagles season starts, everywhere I go, it's going to be go Birds, Eagles stuff, people asking questions about football. The Phillies have a window right now, after the trade deadline, to re-energize the fan base. And you kind of thought for a hot minute that Luis Arias was doing that. And then he has struggled in recent days. The Phillies had a chance to tell the fan base how serious they are about trying to be a contender. And in a National League where the Dodgers have floundered in recent weeks themselves. In a National League where the team with the best record in the league is not the Dodgers, it's the Milwaukee Brewers. In a National League where the Braves and the Cubs and the Brewers and the Dodgers and the Padres all made significant moves at the deadline, I have Dombrowski, who is still surprised that this offense is struggling. To put it further in the context, the Philadelphia Phillies have scored 535 runs on the season. 535. There are 7 teams in the National League who have scored more runs this season, who are playoff teams. There are teams who have scored more runs than the Phillies as well, who are not making the playoffs. The Washington Nationals have scored 655 runs this year. The Pittsburgh Pirates have scored 604 runs this year. The Colorado Rockies have scored 577 runs this year. So that means there's 10 teams in the National League who have scored more runs than the Philadelphia Phillies. But Dave Dombrowski is surprised that they keep struggling. The Phillies are failing the city. They are failing the fans. They are letting everyone down. And if they make the postseason, I think many people might not even care. Maybe I'm wrong. But everywhere I go, Whether I'm at the beach, whether I'm at the store, whether I'm at the local drinking establishment, wherever I might be, people want to talk Eagles and Sixers. I even run people who want to talk about the Flyers. I got iced coffee a couple weeks ago, and a guy wanted to talk Flyers with me. You know what we hear about the Phillies? They stink. They're pathetic. What is this team doing? What is going on with this team? So the Phillies, who are 5-5 since the MLB trade deadline, in a league where the Dodgers are 4-6, in a league where the Brewers themselves are 5-5. You're not doing anything to catch up to those teams. And after yesterday's loss in the wild card standings, you're on the outside looking in. You are now tied with the Diamondbacks for that final spot. And there are some tiebreakers that suggest that you might not be in it. The Cubs are 8-2 in their last 10 games. Padres are 7-3. Phillies are 5-5. Oh, and by the way, those Diamondbacks who are tied with you in the wild card standings, they have scored almost 20 more runs than you have on the year. The team right behind you, 1.5 games behind you, the Miami Marlins, they have scored one less run than you. Oh, and that team, the Cardinals, that you just lost 2 straight to, the Cardinals have scored 6 fewer runs than you. The glorified mediocrity of this Phillies team is actually impressive. Let's see what you guys have to say on the White Horse RV text board at 609-403-0973. Glenn from Absekin says the 1980 Phillies, the 2008 Phillies, and 2026 Phillies have the same record at this point in the season, but 2026 Phillies are too inconsistent on offense to compete for a championship. They have the worst run differential so far of the 3 teams at this point. They may find themselves on the outside looking in when it comes to the postseason. Games pitched by Sanchez and Wheeler are no longer automatic. A lot there from Glenn Absekin. So my only problem with comparing the Phillies to the 08 Phillies and the 80 Phillies or any other Phillies team is that you go back to those seasons. The Phillies were consistently among the best teams in the league. And remember, in 1980, there was no wild card. There were only 2 divisions. So for the Phillies to make the postseason was even more difficult. There weren't 7 teams making the postseason back then. Now, 2008 was interesting because remember, the Phillies in many ways were carried by their offense back then. You could argue the Phillies starting staff today is light years better than the 08 Phillies. Because the combination of Wheeler, Sanchez, and Luzardo are much better than the top 3 of Cole Hamels, Jamie Moyer, and pick who you want for the 3-starter. Brett Myers, Joe Blanton. Hello. So I don't buy too much into comparing these teams because Glenn Absekin, I understand what you're saying that, on paper it may look like they're still okay. I say, look at the compare to the rest of the league. The 2008 Phillies were one of the best offenses in baseball that year. They had the best closer, the best setup man, arguably one of the best, not the best bullpen in all of baseball that season. Can't say that about this team. And now to your point about these are no longer guarantees. You could argue that for as much as people complained about Rob Thompson, Don Mattingly hasn't exactly been that much of a game manager than Rob Thompson. I think he has been better in certain areas of detail and nuance, but it's not like his managing of the bullpen and the starters has been significantly better. And that's part of the reason why these guys are no longer automatic. Now, you could also argue, is Wheeler running out of gas? Is he running out of steam? Sanchez looked tired the other day. Shaner in EHC chimes in the Whitehorse RV text board at 609-403-0973. He says, Dombrowski is living on past stats in last season. Not what they are, but what they were when they were all in their prime. He gave them all Golden Girl contracts, and now I want to see some football. Wake up, Shaner and EHT. Shaner, to me, that's what I'm getting from many fans. Shaner, when I run into people out and about, what you're saying is the vibe I get all around. Everywhere I go, that message that you're talking about is the message that I'm running into. People are frustrated, and they're just sick and tired of being told that what they're seeing isn't real. It's like when a football coach calls a play and he's asked about it after the game, and he comes up with an explanation, and everyone's like, nobody saw that. The people calling the game on television didn't see it. The fans in the stadium didn't see it. The people watching on television didn't see it, but the coach saw it a certain way. Dombrowski is living in the same fantasy world. I love the Golden Girl contracts from Shader and EHT, because it's true. He gave them all these wonderful contracts for nothing. Glenn in Northfield, not Glenn FC, but Glenn in Northfield chimes in at 609-403-0973. He says, I said from the beginning of the year, Dombrowski has not been held accountable for his actions or inaction during the offseason. During the trade deadline, he tries to make up for his mistakes. In addition, he was so adamantly against Mattingly. Glenn is saying, I was against Mattingly being interim coach. He's the same as Rob Thompson. We'll have to look forward to next year with a new manager, hopefully a new general manager. Well, I don't think a general manager is changing, because Dombrowski has been very clear that he likes doing this job. He likes being in the Phillies organization. He likes working with John Middleton. I think I have that audio still. Let me see here. Yeah, here it is. This is Dave Dombrowski on the John Heyman podcast.
I like very much what I'm doing. Very much, the Phillies have been great with me. Enjoy working with John Middleton. The organization's tremendous. Love being in Philadelphia and the organization, the people with whom I work. So hopefully that will last beyond next year. And my health, and fortunately at this time, allows me to do it. And I, again, still have the passion and love for it. If I didn't, I would quit doing it, because the reality is it takes a lot, but I enjoy doing it. So in that case, you drive forward. And I think, again, the health allows me to do so.
Doesn't sound like a guy is leaving anytime soon. So I just put you Glenn in Northfield. Now, to your point about interim managers, the interim manager thing is such a weird dynamic, because the idea that firing somebody has to be done to inspire other people to do their job has always been a very, very perplexing concept for me. Like, why does somebody else losing their job inspire you to do your job? I never understood that about sports, but Thompson and Mattingly becoming interim managers both created a spark in 2002 and 2026. Now, the difference is that the Thompson spark lasted the entire year. The Mattingly spark of him becoming manager lasted 2 months. So it's a very, very strange predicament Philadelphia finds them in. Let's get one more comment in here. Watching on YouTube at 973 ESPN, Jeff in Ocean City chimes in. He says, I still have faith in the Phillies. I prefer they get a wild card spot and find a way to the World Series. Jeff, the problem is that even if they get that wild card spot, are they going to score enough runs to win any games in the playoffs? people forget that the 2022 Phillies were a good offensive team. This team, not so much. When you have 10 teams who have all scored more runs than you in the National League, and 3 of them are not even playoff teams in any sense, I don't know how anyone can have faith in the Phillies. But kudos to you, Jeff in Ocean City, for being that guy. We'll continue with the text board on the other side, 609-403-0973. Plus, Dave Gallagher made some interesting comments about the Phillies yesterday with Mike Gill in the Sports Bash. We'll run those back for you on the show. Also to come, the Nick Sirianni press conference as the Eagles prepare for. Oh, what is that? Oh. Preseason game number 1 this Saturday. Here on Merrill Reese with Mike Quick calling all the action here in your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Also, the full Sixers schedule is dropping today. We'll get all the insights on it from Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers. All that and more still to come. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on the Sports Bash, filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Also, we will check back in the Whitehorse RV text board. John Avalon, your text and more still to come. 609-403-0973.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Hey, it's Mike Gill. You know what makes a winning team? Consistency. And that's something my friend Rocco and his team have delivered year after year at Key Acura of Atlantic City. Right, Rocco?
That's right, Mike. We build our business around taking care of our customers and earn their business again and again. We're a small but friendly dealer. We want every customer to feel like they're part of the Key Acura family.
Sounds like a winning game plan to me. Visit Rocco and the team at Key Acura on Tilton Road in EHT. Online at KeyAcuraofAtlanticCity.com.
I'm Boomer Esiason. My mom died from cancer. She was only 37 years old. She didn't have life insurance, and that was devastating for my family. That's why having life insurance is so important to me. Ethos makes it fast and easy. Get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. You can get up to $3 million in coverage with no medical exam.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/music. That's ethos.com/music. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill
Keeping the fans entertained and happy.
on 973 ESPN. ESPN free mobile app.
They've gone basically the whole year without having a strong bench. I mean, Stubbs on the bench is just, that's like a sin. I just can't get over that. I mean, he seems like a really nice guy, but we're not talking about nice guys right now. We're something that can give you production off of the bench, and that there's no excuse for that. To me, that's putting together the roster. And I think Rob Thompson and Don Mattingly really got dealt a bad deck, and they're left spinning in the wind. That's the words I chose to use. And I think Dombrowski's got to be accountable for that.
Dombrowski accountable? What? Where have you heard that before on 97.3 ESPN? Always great stuff from Dave Gallagher when he joins Mike Gill on the Sports Bash each week here on 97.3 ESPN. Former big league ball player for a decade. But he's right. For as much as we can talk about Rob Thompson, Don Mattingly, I don't think it matters who you put that. Go back in time and go get Sparky Lyle or Casey Stengel or Sparky Anderson. Who else am I thinking of? Jim Fregosi back in time for 93 or Dallas Green from 1980 for the Phillies. Younger version of Charlie Manuel. It doesn't matter who it is. For whatever reason, this organization has determined that handing these managers a flawed roster is A-okay. Our Phillies conversation here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN being brought to you by Yuri's Restaurant and the Boathouse at the foot of the Wildwood Bridge, Wildwood Boulevard, the seafood extraordinary, the value tremendous, the sunsets on the house. Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant and the Boathouse right at the foot of the bridge on Wildwood Boulevard, heading right into Wildwood on the right-hand side. Experience the best of the Jersey Shore, the best seafood at Yuri's and the Boathouse. That's where Mike Gill and the Sports Bash was at for yesterday's Phillies watch party. We'll be back there on September 2nd is our next Phillies watch party at Yuri's with the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. But you heard Dave Gallagher say it there. And we're talking about Dave Dombrowski. Dombrowski has handed this team a bad roster. Anonymous texter chimed on the text board and says, "You're pronouncing the general manager's name wrong. It's Dombrowski, not Dombrowski. There's a W in there." First of all, it doesn't matter how he pronounces his name. It doesn't matter. The guy's doing a bad job. It's not my job to be perfectly phonetically pronouncing his name. It's probably why you didn't put your name on the text, anonymous texter, on the Whitehorse RV text board at 609-403-0973, because you're more concerned about the pronunciating of words than you are at the job or the lack of a good job the guy is doing. See, that's the problem with part of the society we live in today. I feel like Peter Griffin from Family Guy. Remember the segment he did? You know what grinds my gears? People get so obsessed with things that don't really matter. How you pronounce water, woulda, wada, tomato, none of that matters if you're not listening to the rest of what is being said. I could argue maybe the man deserves his name to be pronounced wrong. But you know what? Let's look it up. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the internet. All right. So according to Google AI, we're all wrong. is supposed to be Dombrowski. I've been saying Dombrowski or Dombrowski for years, but apparently it's supposed to be Dombrowski. See if I get one of those audio pronunciators here. Here's one pronunciation method. Sorry, I had to listen to it for a moment, make sure there wasn't some cursing in it. So here we go.
Dave Dombrowski.
All right, so pronouncenames.com says that. Google AI says it differently. So I can't even get consensus on the internet. But thanks, anonymous texter. Appreciate it. More text coming in at 609-403-0973. John from Avalon says, hey, Josh, at this pace of the Phillies, I don't see them making the playoffs at all. They're just up and down, and a lack of good hitting is going to drag them down this year. Yeah, John, to me, the offensive issues with this team are absolutely wild. I get it. You're getting older. I get it. These guys are having issues. But man, it is absolutely nuts that this team is having their issues. And if Gallagher brought that scared both me and Mike Gill, both made us cringe a little bit, not because of what he said was a bad thing, but because this is a former big league ball player, Dave Gallagher. If he's saying that this is potentially happening with the Phillies, this is a reflection of a larger problem for the Philadelphia Phillies locker room.
When he showed up, there was this boost in positive energy. You could see it as a fan. They could feel it as a team. And I was thinking, you know what, he's going to rub off on some guys. And he's going to help some hitters, Crawford, Stott, and not even lefties. It could be anybody, right? That was my thought. They're going to see it. They're going to see how he uses the whole field. He puts the ball in play. He doesn't strike out that much. I think it's been the other way around, that the team is wearing off on him because his enthusiasm seems to have disappeared all of a sudden. And that quote of misery loves company, I've lived that in baseball. You know, you think if everybody's failing, well, it doesn't look so bad when I do. And that's a horrible place to be as a team that's trying to, you know, be a championship team.
Talk about Luis Arias, and he said, look, I thought he was going to come in here, uplift the team. You got the energy, the personality. He says, but Dave says, I think the negative issues of the team are rubbing off of Luis Arias. That's insane. That's a bad look. That's a bad, bad place to be in if you're Philadelphia. If the guy that you acquired, who is supposed to be the savior for the lineup, if your bad juju, your bad energy, your bad vibes are rubbing off on him, that is a yikes. And that goes to show you that maybe the issue with this team is much deeper than just approach at the plate, who the manager is. Maybe there's a culture problem with this team. Yeah, I remember asking before, Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN on a Thursday edition. We're playing some of the audio from Mike Gill's conversation with former big leaguer Dave Gallagher yesterday on the Sports Bash. I asked the question in recent years. I didn't do it as much this year because I wasn't sure if my question was still like relevant or not. But after listening to what Dave Gallagher said yesterday, I do wonder, is there a leadership problem in the Phillies locker room? Now, when I asked this in years past, it was because I was looking at the Nick Castellanos issues last year. 2 years ago, I was looking at the whole Trey Turner and other players struggling and Alec Boehm's bad attitude and the body language. And my question has always been, when I look at successful teams that have made deep playoff runs in any sport, there's always dudes in the locker room, not just guys. No Jags, just a guy. I mean, men who walk around and police the locker room. Who is that guy for this Phillies team? I don't know if that guy exists. Now, I didn't come into this year thinking that because I made the assumption that, well, moving on from two malcontents in Nick Castellanos and Matt Strom was enough of a recalibration for this team to kind of find its way again on and off the field. But now, hearing Dave Gallagher's comments about how misery loves company and how this happens in big league teams, it doesn't seem like there's a guy walking around that locker room saying, guys, we got to get our heads out of the sand. Guys, stop being selfish. Guys, we got to change the energy in this room. Because you heard Dave Gallagher say yesterday, Garrett Stubbs might be a nice guy, but him being on your bench isn't helping this team. There's no adult in the room walking around getting guys to refocus, is there? You know, when I think of the 2008 and 2009 Phillies, there were leaders, men in those locker rooms. Those teams got to the World Series in part because they self-policed themselves. They didn't need Charlie Manuel to walk around and get on them every day because they held each other accountable. Where's the accountability with this ball club? Where's the energy with this ball club? Over on the White Horse RV text board at 609-403-0973. Texter chimes they didn't leave their name, but I'll still read it. It says, what's so disappointing is the lack of fire and enthusiasm from this Phillies team. Bryce Harper yesterday, after 1 run and 2 losses, says, we're right where we want to be. That game was over yesterday as soon as it was 2-1 against the Cardinals. You should be embarrassed. You want to prove yourselves, but they seem indifferent. Texter, that might be text of the day. I wish I could give you credit, but you didn't leave your name. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. I'm watching this team and I'm like, where's the fire? Where's the passion? Where's the energy? You know, they made the joke during Chase Utley's Wall of Fame induction about how he used to break helmets. And there was one season, apparently, he broke so many helmets that the equipment manager had to go and tell him, Chase, you're so angry, I'm running out of helmets for you. But guess what? Chase Utley cared so much about winning that guys 20 years later were like, bro, Chase was so competitive. He's breaking helmets. He broke 7 in 1 year. Do you think there's a guy on the Phillies who's breaking helmets? Do you see Bryce Harper running down the dugout hallway and breaking helmets, breaking bats? Now, listen, I'm not saying you should break stuff. I'm not advocating that level of aggression. But you got to give me something. The text is right. You can't sit there and say, well, you know, we're right where we want to be. No, you're not. Nobody wants to be 5-5 in a 10-game span if you're a competitor. I guess honest Bryce Harper got told to stay home because a month ago when he said we needed help at the deadline, he got criticized. So I guess honest Bryce Harper doesn't show up to the ballpark anymore. Keep the messages tuning in. 69403-0973. 0973. We're also streaming live on YouTube and X. Just follow at 973 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up is the Golick Minute. What did Mike Golick Sr. have to say today that got my attention? Also to come, Nick Sirianni press conference, football at 4 with Andrew Dicecco, powered by the Inside the Birds podcasts, and more of your texts on the White Horse RV text board, 609-403-0973. White Horse RV with locations in Williamstown and Galloway. Your RV adventure starts here at White Horse RV.
When adventure is calling, turn to the experts at White Horse RV Center. For over 50 years, families and adventurers have trusted White Horse RV to find industry top brands and the floor plans that fit every lifestyle. From travel trailers with bunk beds and outside kitchens to motorhomes and destination trailers. Whether you're hitting the open road or planning a local campground getaway, it's about experience, selection, and people who care. See why generations have answered the call with White Horse RV Center, because your RV adventure starts here.
I don't know where Jaden Daniels sits on this, if he was talked into this, if he led this. I have no idea. But it is really, really. Joe Burrow's number has not been worn, not retired, but since 2019, nobody has worn that number at all. As part of the cease and desist letter, the cease and desist letter, the deceased letter, yeah, deceased letter. This should be a deceased letter. It should be buried. Daniel's contract with LSU permitted the school to use his name, image, and likeness for 180 days beyond his final game in college. Last I checked, that ended a long time ago. He's been out of college for more than 180 days, so you don't get that anymore. And your jersey's not retired. This is petty and embarrassing for the Daniels group.
That was Mike Golick Sr. this morning on the Golicks, 10 a.m. to noon every day here on 97.3 ESPN. I can't agree with somebody more than I agree with Golick Sr. This whole situation with Jaden Daniels' family sending a cease and desist letter to tell LSU they can't use his name, image, or likeness anymore. The dude went to college there, won a Heisman Trophy there. But you're all mad because somebody else is wearing his uniform number? The pettiness that some people have when it comes to business, it just makes no sense to me. And then Jane Daniels came out with a statement today saying, "Oh, I'm focused on football. I don't know what's really going on. You know, I'm going to leave non-football matters to my camp." If anybody's watched, whether it's the LSU documentary when he was there a couple of years ago, NIL, or if you've watched the quarterback documentary this year, it's very obvious that Jaden Daniels' family maybe there's a little bit too much hands in the cookie jar when it comes to professional life. This is embarrassing. Who cares? You're making a basically nothing out of something. Bad look for Jaden Daniels. Mike Golick, Sr. and Jr., every day, 10 a.m. to noon, right here on 97.3 ESPN.
Fantasy football season is here. Book your fantasy football league draft at Chachi's 13-4 above Villa Raffici and Absecon, which is $20 per person. Your draft package includes great food and cold beer. Chachi's 13-4, proud partner of 97.3 ESPN and the official sports bar industry ace restaurant.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's good!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tips in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort studio, here's Mike Gill.
Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill, 3 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash. Being brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. You know, you may have survived the summer, but are you sure that your air system is ready for when the temperature continues to be hot or when it changes very quickly when football season gets here? Broadleaf's is your trusted source for all your heating, plumbing, and installation service. Everything you need for generations. Call them at 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleafs.net. Continue to check on the text board throughout the show. The White Horse RV text board is 609-403-0973. I want to shout out John and Buna. His text made me laugh. I also see Angie Thurston. She's watching on the YouTube stream. Just follow at 973 ESPN on YouTube and X. Every day for the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill today and tomorrow here on 973 ESPN. Also later this hour, we will get to the Sixers schedule. What are the top takeaways from it? Well, Liberty Ballers Paul Hudrick is going to join us coming up later in the show. Right now, we're transitioning back to football. We'll get to the Phillies again later in the show. There's plenty to complain about the Phillies. Trust me. I could do 4 hours complaining about the Phillies, but we do got to get to the Birds because Nick Sirianni's final press conference was today, and he had a lot to say. What exactly did he say? Well, we'll get into that because Nick is famous for, or infamous, depending on who you ask, for saying a lot of nothing. But he did speak to the media today before the Eagles preseason game this Saturday in Baltimore against the Ravens. You can hear all the action. Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action here in your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. There was a little fight at camp today. So Sirianni spoke before the fight happened, but apparently Moro Ojomo and Fred Johnson had enough of each other. And it was a good sign that Nolan Smith took Ojomo aside and kind of talked him down. So it's good to see that even if Nolan Smith might not be contributing as much as we like on the field, he is still a good teammate off the field. So it kind of goes to show you again, the comments that Howard Roseman made last week about how, having guys who are good people and quality locker room guys and guys who embody what the Eagles want in character. Nolan Smith might not be giving you all the production you want on the field, but he's doing a great job off the field at diffusing a bad situation and getting his teammate head, back in the game when it came to practice. But before all that happened, Nick Sirianni spoke to the media, his final presser before preseason game number 1. This is from earlier today. The Eagles head coach, Nick Sirianni.
And you had mentioned that Darius Cooper kind of grouped him in the bucket with Johnny Wilson as a dirty work role kind of guy. Do you think he's graduated and deserves more playing time in offense with the kind of training camp?
There's still a lot of time left. He's having a good camp. There's still a lot of time left. It's about being consistent on a daily basis. He's done a good job being consistent on a daily basis. And, he's made some really good catches, really elite hands. And we know he's tough and things that he can do. But I've been pleased with where he is.
Nick, starting at quarterback on Saturday.
I'm sorry.
Who's starting at quarterback on Saturday?
Yeah, we're still thinking through that.
Nick, on Saturday, speaking of the quarterbacks, when you're not
game planning for a preseason game, obviously. What do you look for from the quarterbacks to say this was a good outing, a good showing?
Yeah, you want to it's not just a quarterback thing, Elliot. This is something you're looking for each and every position. You want the operation to be really smooth. And it's first run for our coaches too. We do things at practice, obviously, but this is the first time in a game setting we're able to do that. So you want the operation to be really smooth. You want everyone to be really clean on their assignments, and you're looking for good fundamental football. I think that's not any different than how we treat practice on a daily basis. I think it would be crazy to say, hey, now that we're in a preseason game or now that we're in a game, this is what's important. No, it's our daily habits. And so it's going to be a lot of the same stuff we look for in practice. Operation obviously becomes a little bit different there. But again, we want all our guys, we talk about detail. We want all our guys playing with outstanding detail, knowing what to do, handling situational football, playing with great fundamentals. We want all our guys to play with extreme effort, and this is some of their guys are going to have a lot of plays here that, that they're not used to having that many plays. So, again, with great effort, great physicality, and great mental toughness to be able to put behind a bad play and go on and play the next play. And so, anytime you step on the field, like, I'm looking to emphasize that in team meetings and in offense and defensive meetings where we can emphasize that so we can continue to show, hey, this is what our standard is. And so this will just be another opportunity for that. And the difference is that it's live to the ground and in a game setting in front of fans, and that's exciting.
Again, you just talked about how not knowing when they were going in between him and Tanner in certain parts of practices was kind of like a real thing in a game.
Say that one more time.
Andy Dalton was talking about how it's kind of like a real game where him and Tanner didn't know when he was going in on a given rep and certain. You have to decide who's going to start on the preseason game. But are there ways that you can kind of continue what you've been doing there in training camp?
You're saying in a game?
In these preseasons?
Yeah. And I don't know if that's just for the quarterbacks. There's going to be, DBs that are backing up or have to be ready to play a couple different spots, the field corner, boundary corner, nickel, safeties. We got some guys like that too. And offensive linemen in particular have to know, hey, I'm an interior offensive lineman. I got to be ready to snap if called upon. I got to be ready to play guard, or same thing with tackle. Hey, I'm on the left side. I'm on the right side. So all those things, can happen in a game. And, we do those things in practice, and those will also come viable in this game on Saturday. What's today? Thursday?
Is that something you want to do for quarterbacks in these games, preseason games?
Again, we'll see how that all plays out of where we are with all that. But we're constantly talking through, who's playing, how many reps everyone's had, who needs this or who needs that. And that's just it's kind of a fluid conversation that started this week on Sunday. And, there's been, again, I don't get into it too much because there's constant change through it. Like if I would have told you guys on Monday, I think I had a press conference Monday, hey, here's who's playing. Like, it's just so fluid in that. And there's constant little changes going on behind the scenes and with that.
Yeah, can you guys, this offense historically working in the middle of the field more, certainly when you work through to that area, you're more prone to throw interceptions. Do you have to alter your kind of expectations for how many turnovers you want out of the position versus the reward of working that part of the field?
Sure. You still, we talk about an awful lot. You want to be explosive and you want to take care of the football. My job is to win as many games as we possibly can, not to say lead the league in total offense. If we lead the league in total offense, great. We're probably playing really good. But my job is to win as many games as we can, and that will always be the goal. And we know that part of that is taking care of the football. And our guys know how to do that and have done a good job of that. And our defense done a good job of getting their hands on some of the balls that are out there. So, no, the focus will always be how do we take care of the football and how do we play with great fundamentals while still being explosive. And so now you're going through progressions of different things and saying, hey, yeah, that looked good. He made the right decision on that one, and it should have went there, and then, and then play it as that. But the standard is, hey, take the right footwork as the quarterback. If, go through your progression, go the right place with the football, and that's going to be the standard for quarterbacks throughout time, right? Is did they make the right decision? Did they go the right place with the football? Did they make an accurate throw? And that will continue to be the emphasis.
In these for a lot of the offensive linemen, the young offensive linemen, how big is it for them to get like preseason game experience on Saturday?
Yeah, I think, again, we're live up front. Like, they're going at practice. Now the only thing they don't have is when somebody they can get rolled up on still if somebody goes to the ground. But the thing they don't have is like the tackle gets rolled up on. So we're getting we've been in pads, however many days we've been in pads as much as we possibly can, because we're live up front. And so what better reps to get when, and you've seen that we've done some ones versus twos versus ones. And what better reps to get than against, if you're a young offensive lineman, against Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Moro Jomo. And, our ends are doing a really nice job at Nolan and Jalix and AK and AJ, and so we're getting so much of that good work in practice. Again, this is just, I think what happens in preseason games, the way we kind of look at it is just like, hey, now more eyes are on it, right? You guys get to see everything in practice. We get to see everything and then some by rewatching the tape over and over again, but now more people get to see it. And so, excited for that opportunity.
In these preseason games, the live part, you're live up front. How important is adding in the tackling aspect to evaluate the running game?
Yeah, again, you see when we go through practice how many tackling drills we do, but the tackling drills aren't to the ground. It's getting your body in position, and that's half the battle, right? Of taking the right angles, defeating the blocks, putting yourself in position. But now it's going to have to be, hey, now you got to come away with the body part, and you got to come down with the tackle. And so, yeah, that for those guys, that's different. That's different. Obviously, quarterbacks can get hit now. That's different. And so I would really say, O-line, D-line, they're going full go. Now the D-line's going to have to take the guys to the ground, but that's a great opportunity for us to evaluate how a guy tackles is in this game, because now it's live, and now you can not only see his approach angle, the way he broke down going into it, but now you can see if it's a low tackle, how he approached that, and how did he come away and with getting the guy down, which at the end of the day is so important. And then you see, right, the relentless effort of everybody else, because if we do miss a tackle, our philosophy is, hey, we miss a tackle, we got to have 8 guys there ready to hit that guy and make him pay for breaking that tackle. And so that's going to show up too. But again, we've seen the guys' relentless effort to the football. We preach that. We talk about it. We condition when we show it in team meetings on a daily basis. And so that will be fun to see. But yeah, good point. Great evaluation tool for how guys tackle in a live setting.
What's the biggest to Nick that you're looking forward to seeing in a preseason setting?
You know what, Tim? I think I'm just looking forward to all of those things. Just getting back out there in a game day setting. The process that we go through as coaches, the process that they go through as players. To say I want to single this position out, I'm just looking forward to watching all these guys play in a game where it is live. Even though I feel like we get so many good evaluation process here with the caliber of our team and our players. And so I know I'm dancing around your question a little bit, but I really to say, hey, this position over this position, I'm just so excited to see all the guys compete. I mean, at the end of the day, this business is for people that are ultra competitive, because it's how competitive it is. And I look forward to seeing that. It's always good to go against somebody else. And so, sometimes in this point of camp, you're like, man, we just want to hit somebody else and go against somebody else. And so looking forward to see our guys, every position, go against another team and all the things that come with that.
Preseason games, how do you go about wanting Sean to get in a rhythm as a play caller, but also not showing your cards too early?
Yeah, good question. I think I look at it in the sense of anything you don't want to, we got to go through our process because that's so critical that we're doing that. And again, we'll have 4 or 5 practices throughout camp and joint practices where we get to practice that, and also training camp, or preseason games where we get to handle that. I think, though, at the end of the day, anything you don't want people to see, you can't put on tape because everyone's watching, right? I think back to the 2021 season, we put a couple things on tape and we're like, man, we wish we wouldn't have shown that. And it kind of showed up in a game early on. And, that's on my notes constantly to talk about that to the guys, the coaches in particular, throughout the first couple preseason games, to highlight back to that. I won't get into specifics of what it was, but to get back into that 2021 season of something that happened there that we're like, man, we wish we wouldn't have put that on tape because, the couple of opponents saw that. So, but you got to go practice the things that you've been working on, and what your staples of your offense are, or defense. And so the guys can go out there and operate and go out there and again, play with, you're not masking it so much where you're like, I'm not running the plays that are our base staples, but go out, because we want these guys to go out there and execute with high fundamentals, knowing what to do, so we can again know what to do, so we can see how you do it and see how their talent shines. So I think, Dave, you can do that. Like the process of it and the communication of it is so critical too. You can do all that while not showing all your cards, if that makes sense. And so that will be our process through this game.
They said that Jalen looks faster or running faster. Do the metrics back that up? I guess you guys have ways to track that.
Yeah, I think he looks great in every aspect. I think he's when he has to run the ball, he's running it well and looks fast and explosive. When he's passing it, I think he's been so consistent through camp. I just think he's getting better and better and more comfortable as each day goes by. And I love his consistency right now, and I love the way he's playing right now. I'm really excited for him in this season and the things I know that he can do. And I'm just so pleased with how he's attacked everything. And man, I'm really excited for him and pumped for his, for this year.
Tuesday's practice development. Do you all play in a game? And if so, do you have a conversation with him just because?
What did you say?
You are.
Okay.
Like, can he play in a game? And if so, do you have a conversation with him just about the stadium, fans, that aspect of it, because it's so different?
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing a nice job. Everything's new to him, right? Everything's new to him. And, but he's continuing like when everything's new, that's a great feeling to have. Is like, man, he can only get better from some of these things. And, and so obviously when everything is new to you, everything's new to you, the game day process will be new to you as well. And so what we want for whether somebody is playing in the game or not playing in the game, we want all our guys to go through the pregame process so their first time going through, it's not game one. And so that won't be any different if that's Saquon or Zach Bond or you are. So, they're all going to be going through that process. Your job in the process is to go through the same routine every time, so you're not thinking about the magnitude of the game, kind of like your dribbles on a free throw. You're focusing on that instead of the crowd going wild and all those things when you have to have hyper focus. And that will be his emphasis, and that will be everybody's emphasis on the team.
In Tuesday's practice, you finished with wind sprints. That's not something you usually do. What was behind that?
We feel like just being in you can't play with relentless effort, and you can't play with great detail unless you're in phenomenal shape. And so it's just the emphasis. We did some 2-minute drives that day, and the emphasis there was, hey, we were gonna, as we talked in the staff meeting, I said, let's see where we are at that point. Wanted to get a little bit extra work, and you can see how our guys attack that. Like, our guys know how critical it is to be in great shape and know how hard you have to push yourself there. We got great guys that lead that. And, I think sometimes you could be like, I saw it at my son's football practice last night. They went sprints at the end, and everyone was like, oh. But our guys attacked it like crazy because they know how important that is, and that just speaks to the character of our football team. That it's just like we know how to work. Our guys know how to work extremely hard in the time that we're out here, and I think that was just another good example of it.
That was Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni a little bit earlier today, his final press conference before they actually play a game. What a concept. A couple things I took away from Sirianni's presser. First of all, he wouldn't say who is going to start at quarterback for the team on Saturday. My feeling is they're probably going to put either McKee or Dalton out there. It appears, just based on what reporters have seen and what the coaches have and haven't said, the plan seems to be they want to go into the year with Andy Dalton as the backup, but they still want to audition Tanner McKee if anyone wants to trade for him. I don't think Cole Payton's making this team. I think anyone who thought anything of him coming into this training camp, didn't watch him in college. How do I put this nice? The guy's got a noodle arm, okay? He does not have great mechanics, does not have great arm strength. He's just a competitor. And I think the Eagles just wanted a guy who could be in camp and see if they could maybe refine him. He ain't going to make the team. But I think that they want to see if McKee is going to try to steal the job away from Andy Dalton. So my personal opinion is I think McKee starts on Saturday. Another comment he made is that they want to get a lot of guys playing time because of the fact that, they haven't been hitting as much in practice. And I thought that was interesting because, I made the comment a few days ago on Hanging with Hennig, 12 to 3 p.m. Saturdays on 97.3 ESPN, that when Lane Johnson made the announcement, this is probably his last year, I said, look, you're going to see a lot of Cameron Williams. You're going to see a lot of Markel Bell. You're going to see a lot of different young guys at the tackle position in these preseason games because the Eagles got to find out, when the lights are on, when the whistle is blown, when you don't know what's coming at you as a player, how are you going to react when the contact is made? And so it's going to be very important for a lot of these young guys to go on the field this weekend and get reps against live action. And for me, at least, I think that when I look at this team, you're going to get a lot of questions answered in the first two preseason games about who's going to make this roster, who's going to be part of this roster long-term. And, you're going to see a lot of Tanner McKee. You're going to see a lot of Markel Bell. You're going to see a lot of, really the only young guy you're not going to see is Mekhi Lemon. Now, Mekhi Lemon apparently was working with Jalen Hurts after practice today, running routes, catching balls. So the good news is that he is progressing enough that he's able to run around on a field after practice. Read into that what you will. Howie Roseman said that he went to Mekhi Lemon and said that he views Mekhi kind of like Cooper DeJean, a guy that had an unfortunate injury in training camp, but he'll bounce back and be a good contributor for the team during the season. Hopefully that is true. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash Thursday edition here on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, 3 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash being brought to you by Broadleys Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Broadleys is your trusted source for heating and plumbing service and installation for generations. Call them at 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleys.net. Well, we have the full 76ers schedule, and we're going to get into it coming up next with Liberty Ballers, Paul Hudrick. Sixers play the Celtics not until the middle of November, the Celtics. We'll get Paul Hudrick's thoughts on the full Sixers schedule coming on next here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
on 97.3 ESPN. LeBron James plays here.
Here comes the Kings down the lane. Oh, man. LeBron James like a locomotive right down the boulevard.
97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia 76ers.
The 3 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Broadleaf Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Call 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleaf.net.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. We have a full schedule. I mean, all of this teasing of the schedule. Now we're done with it. We actually got to talk about the schedule. We got Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers joining us to get more into it here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Yes, the full schedule just dropped. And I know Paul from Liberty Ballers has been scraping it, reviewing it, going over all the details, and he joins us right now. Paul, welcome back in. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I wanted to start with this. And you might disagree with me, and that's okay, because so does Mike Gill. So I got to be honest, I hate the Sixers opening against the Knicks. Because to me, it's like now it's going to turn to this whole thing where it's opening night and the rings and the banner for the Knicks. And there's LeBron. Like, to me, I wanted LeBron's debut at the Sixers as an isolated thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but now you're playing the Knicks twice in a 10-day period to start the year. And it feels like the NBA is almost like shoving this whole Knicks Sixers thing in our face to start the year.
Well, they have to do it. There's just no way around it. Because look, imagine the response if you put, I don't know, pick any other Eastern Conference team. Because the deal is the Knicks won, so they have to host opening night. That's the deal. What other team would you have put on there that would have satisfied? I mean, there is the old school rivalry with the Heat, and they do have Giannis now. I don't know if that lands as much on opening night. I would say, I guess I'll just put it that way. If you didn't include LeBron James and the Sixers on opening night, I think that would have just – I think there would have been so much blowback for that. I do understand your argument. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, it is kind of a bummer for Sixers fans that, like, you're right. Like, the broadcast is probably mostly going to be about the Knicks. They just want – and rightfully so. They just won a championship. They're getting the rings. They're raising the banner. They deserve to have that night. But it is kind of a bummer that it'll be a national game. And, yeah, more of the attention will be on the Knicks. But at the same time, Josh, something we're not accustomed to here, when you get a LeBron James, everything becomes about your team. So I know that's not something that, Philadelphia sports in general, something we're not all used to. But that's what's going to be the deal. I mean, and so, like, from the NBA's perspective, they had no choice. They really didn't. They had to put Sixers on with the Knicks on opening night. I'm a little bit surprised that the opener at home is Cleveland. I mean, I know LeBron connection there, but, like, he hasn't played there in a long time. And I get they were, like, a finalist for him. But to me, that if anything, that was maybe a situation where maybe you could have gotten a little bit more of a juicy matchup for that one.
It's interesting because you mentioned about the home opener against Cleveland. I think you're right. I think that for Sixer fans, it's going to take time for them to adjust themselves, shall we call it, right? To the idea that, hey, this ain't about you. That's the old idea. This song isn't about you. That old song. It's like, no, this schedule isn't about you. It's about LeBron. And you're right. If it was anyone but, like, if it was Jaylen Brown, just the only move, right? Then maybe you don't have Cleveland as the opener. But instead, now you're waiting until November 10th for Jaylen Brown to see his former team, where maybe if LeBron wasn't in Philadelphia, maybe that Boston game is in October, right?
Yeah, I mean, that could be the home opener. That way, I mean, I get it, but I still probably would have had if you're going to put this, like, if you're not going to let Jaylen Brown go to Boston until January, and you're going to have the first game be at home against Boston, why not make it the home opener? To me, that would have made a good bit of sense. But like you said, it's the LeBron factor, and that's where we are. But again, to me, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe the Cleveland people are super mad, and that game will have a lot of juice. I mean, I don't know. To me, and like I think what's disappointing too is like if you're a Sixers fan, like yeah, you're going to be excited just because LeBron James is here, Jaylen Brown is here. This is a very exciting team, and it's the home opener. But just Cleveland just doesn't really provide juice for like. And look, again, the crowd's going to be juiced, but like if you would have put a Boston in there, if you would have put the Knicks in there, like any team that has a more of a natural rivalry or hatred with the Sixers, I think there would have been more there. But like Cleveland, there's like no real Cleveland Sixers kind of bad blood other than the LeBron stuff. So I think the NBA might have missed an opportunity there to make that maybe the game where Boston comes to Philly. Because I think that would have been an insane matchup, and the crowd would be nuts, and it's going to be nuts when it happens in November. But to me, that might have been a missed opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah, because what I would have done is I would have had the Knicks open the season against the Spurs. Okay, I would have the rematch.
You got to have them out west, though. You got to have West, so that the OKC San Antonio matchup, you almost had to have that be the West Coast late night matchup.
But I like your idea. The Knicks could have been the home opener for the Sixers. Like that would have been cool.
Yeah, home and home.
And it's
kind of fun.
It's just, hey, why not? Just like let the Cleveland thing. But is that part of maybe, if we're to circle back to the comments about the NBA was waiting on LeBron to make his decision, right? Maybe that so much of this schedule, the NBA is like, for example, you and I both know the Sixers aren't playing the Lakers on Christmas if LeBron isn't here, right? And you're not putting him at 5:00, which is the second smallest viewership window on Christmas. You're not putting the Sixers in that window if LeBron isn't here. So much of this schedule feels like the NBA is really basically pivoting a huge chunk of their schedule. Prime time, especially that game against Cleveland, is an ESPN game, for example. That Knicks Sixers Emirates Cup game, right? That's an Amazon Prime game. Like so much of this is, hey, Sixers got LeBron. We're putting him into every slot that we possibly can that makes sense.
I mean, look, he's the greatest player of his generation, right? He arguably the greatest player that ever lived. So this is the way it goes until he retires. This is how it's going to be, or if he starts showing kind of serious signs of slowing down, because we haven't really seen those yet. Like it's not just that he's 41; it's that he's 41 and can still play at a pretty high level. So he's a draw. He's a guy. Every arena he shows up to, he's going to get attention. Every home game, the Sixers are going to sell out every home game because he's going to be there. So yeah, I mean, this is still a guy who gets people to the box office. He's still a big money draw. It's him. It's Steph. Those are really the guys who bring the crowds, who fans of even other teams, go out of their way to make sure when LeBron's in town or Steph's in town, we're going to see those games because we really want to see those guys. So again, until LeBron either retires or slows down, I mean, that's just going to be the deal.
Paul Hudrick from Liberty Ballers joining us here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. The Sixers full schedule has been dropped. For you, Paul, is there any particular parts of the schedule that stand out to you so far?
The one thing I caught my eye was like the end of the season. That's a pretty tricky one where you got what was it? It was a pretty tough stretch. It's Atlanta at home. I think Atlanta is going to be really good this year. At Toronto, if that Kawhi trade goes through, it sounds like it's going to. Then at Miami, and then close in Charlotte. That's a pretty difficult 4-game stretch to close the season. That late West Coast trip is no joke either. At Utah, at Golden State, at Portland, at Denver. I mean, that's four really difficult games. You would be delighted with a split of those 4 games. That's really tough. The early West Coast swing, actually not as bad. At Lakers, at Clippers, at Sacramento, at Phoenix, and then they Milwaukee on their way towards home. That's not too bad. So I will say that too, John. Like there's not normally there is just like one stretch or a couple stretches where you look at it and you're like, oh man, this is going to be grueling. But really, that's about it. Like what I pointed out are really the only stretches where I'm like, okay, those are going to be some tough spots. But and really, honestly, the beginning of the schedule is not exactly a cakewalk either. When you're talking at Knicks versus Cleveland, then yeah, of course, Milwaukee, that should be a win. But then Detroit at Indiana, New York at home, at Charlotte. I mean, that's pretty difficult first 7 or 8 games there. But they'll get their opportunities. Like it'll soften. They'll get their opportunities. 13 back-to-backs is a pretty normal number. Not too bad. So I mean that should only help the Sixers. So that's really the only things that really stood out to me. And then of course I am personally dumbfounded that they're not going to Boston until January 21st. And that the game is on Amazon Prime. And I don't mean that to disrespect people at Amazon, but like, why is that game not on NBC or ESPN? To me, that makes no sense. And for it to not happen until January, that's crazy to me when you consider how much bad blood there's going to be there.
Yeah, that crowd that night is going to be absolutely nuts for both home and away Celtic games. Those crowds are going to be absolutely. So what stood out to me, Paul, is you mentioned the back-to-backs. Basically, 25% of them are in March. That's what stood out to me. It's the fact that you got Charlotte and then the Lakers on March 3rd and 4th, at Boston, home against Utah, the 7th and 8th. Then you have home against Chicago, away at Washington, the 17th and 18th, and then at Utah, at Golden State, the 23rd and 24th. Like, I will never understand NBA scheduling. Like, how does it make sense to have 4, not 1 or 2, 4 back-to-backs in 1 month for any team? Always perplexed me. Like, who was the idiot that was like, it's a good idea. Let's do this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear you. It's and I can't remember the month. There was a month last season. It might have been January last year, where it was kind of like the same deal, where they just played like all these. It felt like they were playing every night at one point, and it does. It gets like if it feels that way to us, imagine how that feels for the players when they're in it. So, like, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I will say this though, Josh. One thing, because we've rightfully spent a lot of time talking about the starting 5, LeBron, Jaylen Brown, and how star-studded this starting lineup's going to be. They have depth. They really, truly have depth. They have good players. So when those stretches come, those back-to-backs come, you don't feel as bad giving LeBron a night off, giving Joel Embiid a night off, or, if you got to give Jaylen Brown or Tyrese Maxey a night off, you might not feel it as harshly because you have a legitimately pretty good bench that should be able to fill in and do some good things.
Paul, before I let you go, I did want to ask you, you mentioned the roster. Do you believe the roster is complete? Like, do you think there could be any other adjustments? Because there's been a lot of talk about how all these pieces fit under the cap and all those different things, right? So do you think there's any more gymnastics for this roster, or do you think the roster as we know it now is pretty much set?
I tend to think this will be the opening night roster. Anything can happen between now and then. Mike Gansey is pretty much proven to be a very aggressive guy. So I think if something comes along that suits his interest, or if he, I'm sure he'll be active calling teams, just figuring things out and seeing what's out there. I'm sure that's what's going to happen. The reason why I think the roster, though, is probably set for opening night. So they have 14 guys under contract, but they are hard capped at the first apron, which means they cannot pass it. It is a hard cap. And right now, they're only like, I don't know the exact math, but like 1.8 million below the first apron. That means they cannot sign anybody. They cannot sign a veteran minimum guy to that 15th roster spot because that would exceed the hard cap first apron. What can happen, though, is when I think it's like December 10th feels like the right date. That's when the veteran's minimum would be prorated enough to fit below that first apron. And then that's when you might look. And even then, Josh, they might not look to do anything. They might wait until the trade deadline, keep that spot open, keep their flexibility, keep their options, and just see what kind of shakes out. And also that gives them a better look at their roster, right? Like, I think the one question, and I think it's fair, is everyone wonders, well, you signed Ariel Hukporti to a slightly above minimum contract. You have a Dem Bono coming back. is that enough when you also, you have Dominic Barlow as well as an option at the 5, and even LeBron maybe at times, but is that enough to get you through a regular season when you have Joel Embiid on your team? Because we all know his health history. You don't have to revisit that. But I think this gives Mike Gansey an opportunity to see how that looks. And if it looks bad and it's a disaster, maybe then he looks for a veteran center. Maybe he signs a Kevin Love to a prorated deal. Or again, maybe he keeps that spot open, waits to see what happens around the trade deadline. If there's a guy they can acquire, if a guy hits the buyout market. Because the other thing to keep in mind too, teams that exceed the first apron, it's a little bit tricky with buyout guys. I'll just put it simply. It's way harder to sign buyout guys on previously high contracts when you're over the first apron. Since the Sixers are under it, it will be much easier for them. So if a guy does become available, they would have a pretty good opportunity to sign them. And then the factor of LeBron James being here and guys wanting to chase rings, this would be a very attractive spot for a potential buyout guy.
By the way, shout out to the texter who it's Charlie Simon's "You're So Vain." That's the song I was trying to reference
That's a good
earlier.
one. Yep.
So he is Paul Hudrick. All of your Sixers coverage can be found at Liberty Ballers, at Paul Hudrick on the X platform. And they joined us right here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Paul, great stuff. Appreciate you jumping on today.
Anytime, Josh. You got it, man.
Josh Hennig hanging with you here on 97.3 ESPN, affiliated for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash. Coming up on the other side, it is our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Chris Canny said something that I actually agree with. That's coming up next here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens Saturday night. Pre-game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
The catch is made by Henry, and he is just bounced down by Cooper DeJean.
What a great tackle by Cooper DeJean.
This is South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN. It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
The 3 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Broadleaf Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Call 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleaf.net.
I don't understand why we jump to the place of wanting to crown the Rams because they have all of these household names when we all understand having the best talent doesn't make you the best team and that the best team always wins. Don't understand it for the life of me. Football is about 1 through 53. It's not about 1 through 22 when it looks at all of the starters. It's not about all of the top-end talent that you have. It's about being able to have reliable depth. It's about being able to have role definition. And there are other teams that have that in place more so than the LA Rams.
Chris Canty this morning on Unsportsmanlike heard 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern here on 97.3 ESPN. And I think this might be one of the points Canty has made that I agree with more than almost anything he has ever said on ESPN radio. Because I have been preaching this for years here on 97.3 ESPN to the chagrin of some of you out there who have listened to me with Mike Gill and other shows over the last 11 years. And that is, football is a team sport. This is not basketball where you can just sign one guy and boom, there it is. He's going to have all the problems solved for you. No, that's not how this works. You got to have a whole roster. Guys are going to get injured. Guys got to work together. Depth is important. Typically, the team that wins the championship is one of the more healthy teams in the NFL. So the Rams being this prohibitive favorite to some people in the NFC completely just perplexes me. I think the NFC is very competitive when it comes to the Rams and the Eagles. You can throw, are the Bears are an ascending team? Are the Lions back in it this year? The Seahawks just won a championship. If the 49ers are healthy, I know it's a big if, the NFC is stacked right now. So don't tell me the Rams are this prohibitive favor, overwhelming favor. Chris Canty's 100% right. Football is a team sport, and getting one player, Myles Garrett, doesn't change all that. Speaking of football, Football for Dicecco is next.
South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Andrew Dicecco, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
We're never satisfied. That hunger for more. I have it. Everyone has it.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
Yes, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Those are just two of the places you can find coverage from the one and only Andrew Dicecco. He is all over the Birds this time of year. And he joins us on Thursdays as the Eagles are preparing for preseason game number 1. And Andrew is joining us here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Andrew, welcome back in. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. It's an especially busy time of the year for me, but this is also my favorite time of the year. Training camp and football is in full session.
Well, and I love the fact you're on, because I think these preseason games is also like prime real estate for you, because we're going to see a lot of guys this weekend and next weekend who maybe people don't know as much about. And I wanted to start with, what have you observed from the team at training camp this week that you think is going to factor into what we see on Saturday night?
Well, you're not going to see a ton in terms of scheme or anything like that. It's going to be pretty vanilla, as is the case pretty much every preseason, Josh. But I think you're going to see a lot of young players who are vying for spots, whether it be on the Eagles or elsewhere, that are really looking to put their best foot forward. They've had some really quality, intense type of practices of late, and you get the sense that both the offense and the defensive players are sort of chomping at the bit to face a team with a different jersey. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that all unfolds on Saturday night. And there's plenty of young players that I'm definitely keying in on, and there's roster spots that are up for grabs at the moment.
And I think one of the positions people are going to be very curious about is going to be the offensive line, Andrew, especially in light of Lane Johnson's announcement that it's probably going to be his final year. This is going to be prime real estate starting this weekend, Andrew, to see what do the young guys who might be in line at tackle, what are they going to do? How are they going to step up?
Well, I assume you're talking about Markel Bell being the young tackle, and he's had a nice training camp. He's gotten reps with the first team when Lane Johnson was absent, and he's gotten quality work with the second team as well. And I think he's progressing a little bit faster than maybe some anticipated. You can see that he has the power and the size. We'll see where the footwork and the coordination starts to come in. That's all part of the development. But everything that I've seen from him right now has been encouraging. And it's kind of interesting when you think of what that could mean between him and Fred Johnson. I still believe that Fred Johnson would be the first man up. He's an experienced player who's logged a ton of snaps for the Eagles in recent years. And it's good to have someone like Markel Bell, who's a developmental prospect who seems to be a little bit ahead of schedule. And that's somebody that I'll be keeping an eye on. And then you also have Drew Kendall, the Eagles' second-year offensive lineman. He's a center by trade. He's been cross-training at guard. Really smart player, and he added some weight to his size. He's about 305 right now. He said that when we were speaking to him last weekend, and I think that his role, you may not think of him. He's probably not front of mind right now, but it is going to be hugely critical to the Philadelphia Eagles on game day, because he will be the top interior backup, the role that Brett Toth filled last year, where he can play both guard spots and center. And he's had a really nice training camp. He's taken a big step forward. Of course, there's Willie Lampkin, who everyone is looking to get some eyes on. He's had a nice training camp. They've been cross-training him at guard, another center by trade. 5'11", 290 pounds might be a little generous, but I think when you see the way he moves and the power and his anchor ability and just his overall play strength with just the powerful base that he has, I think Eagles fans are really going to fall in love with him. And then there's other players like my sleeper, John Ojukwu, who I've been on since the spring, having seen him cross-train at guard and play some tackle. He was repping at left guard today. That was the first time this summer I saw him play any guard. And so to me, that suggests that the Eagles might be trying to expand his palette a little bit and give him a realistic chance of making the team. So he's somebody else that I have highlighted.
If we get back up for a minute, because I do want to get to Njoku as well. You know, you mentioned about
Njoku.
When you talk about Bell, talk to me for a minute about what is realistic expectations for him, because Lane Johnson spoke very highly about him on Saturday when he met with the media. You know, so how do we balance between what some of the hype is about Bell and what are realistic expectations for the fans?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's important not to get carried away. I understand that when you see the glimpses and you read our notes and things like that from training camp, it's going to conjure a lot of intrigue, but it's also important to keep everything in a perspective here. He's never played an NFL snap, and you have someone in front of him, in the case of Fred Johnson, who has played a lot of football. But I think right now you have to be encouraged with the fact that he's ahead of schedule, and that's evidenced by the reps that he's getting and how he's performed in practice. And if all goes well, he's not going to see the field at all this season, because that means that Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson are healthy.
Talk with Andrew Dicecco, Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com for all of his Eagles coverage. Of course, you can also check out everything he does online at Andrew Dicecco NFL on the X platform. You mentioned about, I want to ask you John Njoku, because this is a guy you mentioned. You've been talking about him for months now. He is a big athletic guy, but he's also older for a guy at this point in his career. You know, I believe he's 27 years old. So,
27 years old, UDFA out of Boise State in 2023.
Yeah. So talk about what you've seen from him. And because you mentioned they're putting him out at left guard. He's basically played almost up and down the entire line at this point, this offseason.
Well, he's mostly been a tackle in training camp, specifically a right tackle, and that's what he was with the Tennessee Titans, by the way. But what I've seen from him is someone who has some polish to his game. He seems to be a little bit technically refined. And I think when you look at the Eagles' depth right now along the offensive line, there's a lot of youth there, right? Aside from Fred Johnson, a lot of inexperience. John Njoku has played in 16 games. He started 9. And I think that maybe that experience might intrigue the Eagles a little bit. And I think he sort of made the most of his opportunities largely. And he's caught my eye a little bit in one-on-ones. Again, this is sort of a sleeper and under the radar type of player. I'm not saying he's a slam dunk to make the roster by any stretch, but I think what their actions are telling you is that they want to get a longer look at this guy. And I've been intrigued with what I've seen thus far.
Stay on the offensive side of the ball. Another guy that's gotten people's attention, Andrew, I want to get your perspective on, is Darius Cooper. Talk about what he has looked like to you at training camp and what his role might be in getting time and action, not just in the preseason, but potentially in the regular season.
Yeah, Darius Cooper has been one of the training camp standouts for the second year running, and he is absolutely legitimate. For anyone out there wondering if that was just a blip on the radar last summer, no. Darius Cooper is absolutely an NFL player, and what you are hearing and reading is totally legitimate. He just shows up every day and makes a play, strong hands, really he attacks the football. He makes a play every day. And I think his willingness to do whatever the Eagles ask of him and his ability to do whatever the Eagles ask of him, whether that's standing back there and returning a kick, lining up at gunner, running down the field on kickoff, blocking on the perimeter and doing the grimy work, he's willing to do it. And when you talk about Darius Cooper, you have to talk about someone who is remarkably mature for being a second-year player. And I think his mindset, the consistency and the professionalism that he conducts himself with is something that to me suggests that he is going to have a long career. Now, it's also important to, when we talk about Markel Bell, keep things in a perspective here, because Jahan Dotson, for example, was the third receiver last year. Didn't factor all that much into the offensive mix. And with this offense, which is largely going to be predicated on spraying the football around, and you already know that it goes through Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Dontavian Wicks. There's a lot of other players in the line there ahead of them that are going to probably see more targets. Now, do I think Darius Cooper could step in there and be an effective number 3 for the Eagles? I do, because I absolutely believe in the player and his skill set. But in terms of numbers or targets or all that, I think we kind of just have to let things play out a little bit and let things run its course.
Nick Sirianni, when he spoke to the media earlier today, would not give away who the official starting quarterback would be for Saturday. Who does Andrew Dicecco think is going to get the majority of the reps on Saturday?
The majority of the reps, I would say probably Tanner McKee. I would imagine that Andy Dalton would start the game. That's just my gut feeling. They've alternated the quarterbacks all summer, but I think in this situation, and again, this is just me guessing, maybe that they would sort of give the veteran the nod there to start the game. But I expect both players to see a ton of work, and also rookie Cole Payton, who's likely going to see a lot of time in the second half. And I got to tell you, Josh, and the listeners, make sure that you tune in for the third and fourth quarter, because he has a live arm. He's fearless with the football, and he will push it down the field. Now, sometimes that may end up in the arms of another team, but I think that the fact that you see a willingness and a fearlessness from a quarterback, a young quarterback, you don't often see that. You see a lot more of a reserved nature from that position, but he's not like that, and so I think he's going to be firing away on Saturday.
I was going to say, isn't he a little bit fearless with his body too? From what I saw at North Dakota State, he was not afraid to take contact.
Absolutely. And I think you're going to see him run the football a little bit, maybe have a highlight reel type of play where he lowers his shoulder. He's just a really tough player. I liked his tape at North Dakota State. Understand that he's a work in progress, especially in terms of mechanics, but you can see that the Eagles clearly have something to work with. And I'm curious now to see what he does against another team where you actually have to put a little bit of, there's not scheme put into it, but there's a little bit more thought put into the game plan.
A couple more for Andrew before we let him go. Flip over to the defense. Who is somebody on defense that you are keeping a close eye on that maybe the fans out there might not know about, but they need to know about, Andrew?
Well, I love this question. Why don't we do one on all three levels? Okay. So
do it.
The first level, I'm going to say Byron Young. And Byron Young is, to me, one of the more underrated Eagles. I think that a case can be made that he is one of the most important depth pieces on the roster. He's quietly had a good summer. He's slimmed down a little bit. He's refined his pass rush, and you could see the juice that he's bringing, makes the most of his opportunities. And I think that as a player who's entering the final year of his rookie deal, you're going to see a motivated player. Certainly when you see two players in your room get well compensated and Moro Ojomo is next in line, I think Byron Young's a player to keep an eye on. When you get to, we'll say, I'll do edge rusher and then I'll do linebacker and secondary. But edge rusher, I'm going to tell you, AJ Epinesa is a player that has caught my eye quite a bit in training camp. He's a veteran. He's played a number of games, and I think he's sort of taken well to this defense. He's being asked to do some different things that he hasn't had to do in his career, dropping into coverage, and he plays with an edge. I like AJ Epinesa. Linebacker is going to be Chance Campbell. I've been talking about him since really last season, and this is a player that teammates have spoken highly about. He was an effective player on the scout team. I highlighted him in the spring. He's an instinctive player. He has a relationship with linebackers coach Bobby King that predates their time in Philadelphia, going back to their time with the Tennessee Titans. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that really shines on special teams. And for a player like that, you have to be able to latch on somewhere, and that would be special teams. And I think that that's really going to be in his wheelhouse. And then in the secondary, there's a couple of players. I'll say Mac McWilliams, the Eagles' second-year cornerback, who only played in 5 games last year. He offers inside-outside versatility. Smart player. He's playing with more confidence this year. He added some more muscle to his frame, and I think he's someone who has maximized the opportunities. He stepped in for Quinyon Mitchell today at outside corner, and that's a player that I think is an arrow-up player going into year 2. And then with the safety position, I would say Kapina Gushikin. He's an undrafted free agent out of Ole Miss. He's been working in with the second team a little bit. And the other safety would be Andre Sam, who's entering his 3rd year with the Eagles. He clearly has a firm grasp on his assignments. He always seems to be in the right place at the right time. And there seems to be some trust there with him. And that's someone who is just very consistent. He's been exclusively operating with the second team.
Great stuff here from Andrew Dicecco. Of course, check out all of his work at InsideTheBirds.com. He joins us every Thursday here on the Sports Bash, and follow him on the X platform at Andrew Dicecco for all of your Eagles and NFL coverage. And of course, again, Eagles Ravens this Saturday. You can hear the game. Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Andrew, great stuff. Enjoy the game this weekend.
You got it, Josh. You too.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And yes, Football at 4 is brought to you as it is every day by Ocean Casino Resort, the best place for game days. The Fanatics Sportsbook and Ocean Casino's Gallery Bar booking games is Ocean's go-to game day destination with huge screens, great drinks, and all the sportsbook action you want. It's the perfect place to catch every play and celebrate every win. With big screens, you can make big bets. Game day hits differently at Ocean. To learn more, visit theoceanac.com. And don't forget to check out all the live entertainment, including Sebastian Maniscalco, September 17th through 20th and 24th through 27th. So let's backtrack some of what Andrew had to say there and kind of review it here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Kind of going in reverse order. He mentioned, I feel like I hear Andre Sam's name every year now at this point for the last couple of years. And he is a guy I think that might have a much bigger, he might have a much bigger role heading into the year than past years, because in past years, he has been buried down the depth chart. He has been a guy that has been maybe the fourth or the fifth or the sixth guy in a lot of conversations. But now heading into this year, he may be a bigger name because of the fact that you don't have as many veterans ahead of him. He is very familiar with Fangio's system, and he is somebody who now, multiple years now in Philadelphia, this is now his second year. So he might be a guy that at 27 years old, if he's going to keep making plays the way he is, he might be a guy. And you heard about Mac McWilliams. That's a guy that Mike Gill has mentioned many times here in the Sports Bash. I remember watching him at Central Florida. His size coming out of college made him a very intriguing player. And Andrew said he's put on some muscle, he's put on some weight. So maybe he can be a functional guy when it comes to not just outside corner, but inside corner as well. The other guy he mentioned that I am extremely fascinated by is AJ Epinesa, because Epinesa is a guy who, when he came out of Iowa originally, a lot of people loved what he could bring to the table. He was an extremely popular character when it came to his versatility, in terms of his ferocity, in terms of his playmaking ability. You know, he is a guy who is a tremendous athlete. And, you know, when Buffalo drafted him, 6 years ago now, he was somebody that came into the NFL and had a big burst initially. And then as the years went on, he kind of faded a little bit. And I always wondered, was that because of teams were game planning against him? Was it because the Bills found other guys to play the role that he played in? I was always curious about why his role seemed to diminish in Buffalo a little bit. So then when he landed in Philadelphia, I always looked at him as, could he be a guy that fits that NASCAR package, right? Could he be a guy that is a part-time outside rusher, but more of an interior guy on pass rushing downs? Because historically, when he first came to the NFL, he was viewed as like a well-rounded player, but as time went on in Buffalo, he became more of like a part-time edge rusher, part-time, 5-down lineman guy on the goal line type situation. So I always wonder, was he just miscast in Buffalo, and could he find a role in Philadelphia? On the offense side of the ball, you have heard me numerous times talk about Markel Bell, but I really wanted to get Andrew Dicecco's perspective on it, because he's at training camp and looking at him. Andrew's right. Fans are going to get excited about players, so you don't want to get your expectations too high. But I mean, the guy is 6'9". The guy is almost 350 pounds. The guy was a monster pass rusher in college. Lane Johnson is hyping the guy up. It's hard not to get excited. about what his potential can be. But you know what? Maybe the hype is a little too much. Maybe we do need to give this guy a little room to breathe and find his way around this team in the NFL. And so if he does have a couple of bad snaps or bad downs on Saturday, don't get upset because he is still a work in progress, especially when it comes to the run blocking game. And this is a new scheme for everyone, not just for Markel Bell as a rookie in the NFL. So there may be a huge adjustment for everyone in the preseason, not just for Bell. The other guy we asked him about is Darius Cooper. And I generally believe that Cooper could be a guy that finds a role in the regular season for two reasons. One, he is somebody that if you have listened to the Inside the Birds podcast with Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher and Andrew Dicecco, Cooper is very good at playing certain roles in an offensive scheme. And I have to wonder, knowing what the Eagles want to do on offense, just factoring in Sean Mannion, his background in Green Bay. Green Bay loved to spread the ball out. They love to distribute the ball to multiple people. Is Cooper going to be a guy that carves out a larger role because they are going to want to rotate the receivers? All things being equal, I think your two outside receivers this year are going to be Wicks and Smith. The slot, it depends on who's healthy. I think the Eagles had the idea that maybe Lemon was going to be that guy. But now that he has been injured, does Hollywood Brown or does Darius Cooper or does an Elijah Moore, do any of those guys carve out a role in the slot? Or is there a scenario where Philadelphia starts maybe playing at the formations? Devonta Smith has shown you in college and the NFL, he is an excellent slot receiver in terms of route running. Could Cooper be the other outside receiver when they do kick Smith into the slot for certain formations? Are there scenarios where if there is somebody who has a cramp, who has a minor injury during the game, is Cooper the first guy to come in off the bench, or is it someone else like a Hollywood Brown? So I am curious to see, can Cooper continue to evolve and grow and progress as a receiver? And does that make him a more valuable player for Philadelphia during the regular season? And part of that will play out in the preseason when you hear Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action here in your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Saturday night is the Eagles versus the Ravens. Pregame coverage begins at 6 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. Kickoff after 7 p.m. Of course, every Eagles preseason game, every Eagles regular season game, and every Eagles postseason game right here on your home for Eagles football in all of South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash. Speaking of the Eagles, coming up on the other side, this former NFL quarterback says that the criticism of Jalen Hurts is getting out of hand. We'll discuss it. Is he right? We'll play it for you, and we'll talk about the Jalen Hurts, shall we call it, criticism, the critiquing. Is it too much? Also, check it on the text board as well this hour. The Whitehorse RV text board at 609-403-0973. Plus, the Phillies lineup a little bit later as well. Phillies fastball with Oscar Budejen coming up at 5:30. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle, and we are streaming live on YouTube and X. Just follow 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Fishing season's here. Get everything you need at the Bait and Tackle Shop at Utch's Marina in historic Cape May. Come to Utch's for a huge selection of spinning and conventional rods and combos for the boat or the surf, with top brands available like Penn, Tsunami, Ocean Max, Shimano, and more. Utch's Marina has all your fishing needs. Live bait, frozen bait, rods, reels, and lures too. Prepare for your next fishing experience. Come see us today at the Bait and Tackle Shop at Utch's Marina, located at the foot of the bridge in Cape May.
The times you spend with your friends and loved ones are the best. Those selfies you take now will shape memories that will last a lifetime. Make sure you stay in the picture and stay away from fentanyl. Only 2 milligrams of fentanyl can cause an overdose. So learn about the dangers and risks of this frightening, deadly drug at stayinthepic.nj.gov. Don't risk your life and all those wonderful memories you're creating. Stay in the picture and stay away from fentanyl. Know all the risks. Visit stayinthepic.nj.gov from New Jersey Human Services.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Keeping the fans entertained and happy.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
There is not another quarterback in the NFL that if they threw a pick in practice and it got posted on their social media, that it would get that many views and or attention. Small part of me can respect and appreciate because Jalen hasn't and doesn't throw the ball over the middle of the field a ton, and it's a ball that gets thrown over the middle field and it's a pick and it's Sean Mannion's new offense and oh my gosh, Jalen can't do it. But the fact that this has become such a big deal when we are one season removed from him winning Super Bowl MVP, and this is coming from me now, who's been critical of him, is outrageous.
That was Dan Orlovsky this morning on ESPN TV's Get Up. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Yeah, I purposely picked this music because it really is the crazy train when it comes to these Jalen Hurts conversations. So let's get into it. Dan Orlovsky saying it's getting outrageous. So for those who didn't see it, there was a video that was circulated by the Philadelphia Eagles social media. Now, the post was supposed to be about, look at this amazing play by Quinyon Mitchell. But the Jalen Hurts hate crowd turned it into an opportunity to rip the quarterback. To which that's why Dan Orlovsky basically almost lost his mind this morning on Get Up. And I got to tell you guys, I think Orlovsky is correct in this case because there is almost an obsession when it comes to the Jalen Hurts haters to constantly try to marginalize him and put him down. And basically they almost root for him to be a not good quarterback, I should say. And it's almost like they want to find any opportunity they can for Hurts to be diminished, demeaned, put down, to the point where I have seen people adding me on X with these like extreme takes about how Jalen Hurts is Trent Dilfer and all this stuff. And I got to tell you guys, I wish I had a better understanding, and I'm not saying it to be dismissive. I wish I had a better understanding where the origin of the Jalen Hurts hate comes from. Because I get the Nick Sirianni stuff. Okay, Nick Sirianni, there are a lot of people who looked at him when he was hired. They didn't know who he was. There's a perspective on Sirianni that it's like, well, the Eagles won a championship with Doug Peterson and Sirianni, so maybe the head coach doesn't matter. So, like, I understand a lot of that. But I don't understand that in a league where if you look at who has won a championship over the last 15 years, there's only a handful of guys. And I just don't understand where this obsession with, on one hand, everyone complains the only thing that matters is winning. Got it. But then it's, yeah, but I don't like how you won. Here's the list of quarterbacks who have won a championship. So it was Sam Darnold last year. The year before, it was Jalen Hurts. Then you had 2 straight years of Pat Mahomes. Then you had Matthew Stafford. Then you had Tom Brady. Then you have Mahomes, Brady, Nick Foles, Brady, Peyton Manning, Brady, Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, and then Manning, Roethlisberger, Brady. Wait a minute. So you're telling me in the last 25 years, actually 26 years, only 13 quarterbacks have actually won a championship. And one of them, two of them don't even play in the league anymore. Three of them, Eli, Peyton, and Brady, they're all retired. So of the 13 quarterbacks who have won championships in the last 26 years, 3 of them are retired. I think Russell Wilson is half retired, half not retired. I think if somebody called him, he would run out of the media booth and onto the field immediately. So he's kind of like a lukewarm retirement. So there's 9 quarterbacks then. Now we're down to 9. And Jalen is one of them. Oh, and by the way, Roethlisberger's retired too. Wait, so now we're down to 8. Joe Flacco, he's not starting anywhere, is he? Wait, so we're down to 7. So you're here to tell me that there's 7 quarterbacks actively starting in the NFL who have won a championship. Oh, wait, no, it's 6 because Nick Foles is retired too. So 6 in 26 years who are active. But yet people are almost finding opportunities to criticize the guy. From a social media post that was supposed to be about Quinyon Mitchell, that people use the opportunity to criticize Jalen Hurts. These same people who are not at training camp every day, these same people who are not watching every snap of every game or watching every snap of every practice either, but one social media video, as Dan Orlovsky says, is creating a level of criticism that is outrageous. Now, I'm not saying we can't criticize Hurts. I have criticized Hurts here on 97.3 ESPN over the years. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill in the Sports Bash on a Thursday. I have criticized him after games. To me, Jalen Hurts has one major flaw above all other issues with him. To me, the biggest thing that holds him back as a quarterback from being that next level. And when I mean next level, I think that when it comes to, and I had Mike Sando on my show this past weekend, hanging with Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. He does the quarterback tiers every year. So he has Jalen Hurts in the second tier. So to me, I don't want to say he's first tier if he does this, because I think he would need to do this for multiple years before anyone puts him in the Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson category. But what I'm referring to is there's one aspect of Hurts's game that has separated him for many people. And whether people actually can communicate it or not, I'll communicate it here. If you're listening on 97.3 ESPN, streaming live on YouTube and X at 97.3 ESPN, or we get the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Wherever you're listening, thank you for tuning in to the show. The biggest thing that holds Jalen Hurts back is his processing. To me, Jalen's problem has always been above the shoulders, not below. Because physically, he can make every throw. We saw it in his 1 year at Oklahoma when he was the runner for the Heisman Trophy. We saw it during 2022 when he was the runner-up for the MVP. We saw it in the Super Bowl 2 years ago when he won MVP. Hurts physically can make every play. He can make every throw. But man, and I'm trying not to curse on the radio. Dude, when he holds the ball for more than 2.5 to 3 seconds, it's like his percentage of making a good decision drops precipitously. I understand there are plays that are long developing at times. I understand there are plays that you need to give the receiver time to get to a specific spot on the field, whether it's a deep dig, whether it is a heavy slant route or a Z pattern or whatever. I understand there are plays with rub routes. I understand there's a lot of plays that demand the quarterback to hold the ball for more than 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. But Jalen Hurts is not one of those guys who can hold the ball long and still make the best decision. I think there's also only a handful of guys who can do it. So it's not that Hurts, I think, is a bad processor of information. I think that there's such a small group that can process information at a high enough level to allow the offense to have those type of plays develop. I think quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, and I'm going to put him in a category with a few others, like Jared Goff, like Lamar Jackson. These are quarterbacks, and I'll even throw in there a Jordan Love, a Sam Darnold, and I could name more. These are quarterbacks who do their best work when they are making quick, sharp, decisive throws. The longer the play runs out, the worse it gets for their decision making. Because it's almost like they're getting overwhelmed with information. And I've seen Kurt Warner talk about this on his YouTube channel. I've heard Dan Orlovsky talk about this on NFL Live. I've heard guys like Troy Aikman talk about this in interviews. Other quarterbacks who I've listened to, we've had Tony Banks here on 97.3 ESPN. He has talked about this. There's something about certain quarterbacks, the longer the play goes on, it's like there's like this oversaturation of information, and it's like paralysis by overanalysis. And I feel like I watched Jalen Hurts, the steam just comes out of his helmet, and he doesn't know what to do. I think the new Sean Mannion offense is going to put Hurts in a better position to make more decisive throws, to process maybe information differently so he doesn't get overwhelmed with absorbing of information. And while some people out there may overreact to a video posted on social media, I am going to look at Jalen Hurts and say, I have a Super Bowl winning quarterback who has a specific flaw in his system. And you know what? If there is something in his skill set that can be amplified by a former quarterback in Sean Mannion, who has worked with a lot of different quarterbacks over the years, if he can make Sean Mannion helped make Malik Willis look good and get him a huge payday. He helped in the development of Jordan Love. He helped in the reclamation project that was Sam Darnold. He has worked with Jared Goff, with Sean McVay in LA. I'm sure Sean Mannion knows more about football than I do and you do. So if I can see it and you can see what we're talking about, I'm sure he sees it too. And Jalen Hurts has said, I am in that man's hip pocket. I am trying to learn everything I possibly can from him. I have every confidence that Jalen Hurts is going to have a good year, and which is going to make a lot of the Jalen Hurts haters very, very, very angry. Text coming in on the text board at 694030973. I'll get to your text coming up on the other side. That is the White Horse RV text board, 609-403-0973. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash, streaming live on YouTube and X. Just follow at 973 on YouTube and X for every Sports Bash with Mike Gill here on 973 ESPN.
LeBron James plays here.
Here's James for three. Got it. LeBron James knocks it down.
97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's radio home of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Fantasy football season is here. Book your fantasy football league draft at Chachi's 13th floor, above Villa Raffici and Absecon. For just $20 per person, your draft package includes great food and cold beer. Chachi's 13th floor, proud partner of 97.3 ESPN and the official sports bar industry ace restaurant.
Carpal tunnel syndrome, heart failure that doesn't improve with common medicines. These are some signs and symptoms associated with ATTR-CM, or the cardiomyopathy of ATTR amyloidosis, a serious heart condition with symptoms that get worse over time. Amvuttra vutrisiran is a prescription medicine given by a healthcare provider that treats ATTR-CM in adults to reduce heart-related death, hospital stays, and urgent visits. In a clinical study, Amvuttra was proven to help people live longer and have fewer heart-related hospital stays and urgent visits over 3 years compared to placebo. Amvuttra lowers the amount of vitamin A in your blood, which can affect vision. Other side effects include pain in the arms or legs, pain in the joints, and shortness of breath. These are not all the possible side effects of Amvuttra. For prescribing information, call 1-833-256-2748 or learn more at amvuttra.com. Ask your doctor about Amvuttra for ATTR-CM.
Take the winning drive to RK Kia of Vineland, where you get RK coverage, no charge. RK does it right. RK Kia of Vineland, myrkkia.com.
Yeah, I think Jalen's having a good camp. You know, I think he looks faster. You know, Wake can't touch him during practice. And, you know, so there's always that debate whether you had him or not. And I think there's been a few times where our guys think they had him and they really didn't. I think he's moving good. And I think he's doing a nice job with the new offense.
That was Vic Fangio talking about Jalen Hurts. Of course, we always joke that Vic Fangio is a truth serum for the Philadelphia Eagles. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We'll check back on the text board now at 609-403-0973. Texter chiming in says, I don't understand either all the Hurts hate. He's had to start over every year with a new offensive coordinator. Does he work with kid gloves and not go deeper into the offense? It's a good question. You know, how much of his issues have to do with the changing of coordinators? I've always felt like, you know, having a different voice telling you what you should be doing every year, it's got to be frustrating on some level. Whether Hurst wants to admit it or not, that's a different story. Couple more texts coming in here. Drew in EHC says you've got Drew Brees is retired as well. So it's only 5 active quarterbacks. Right. Okay. So 5 in the last 26 years. Good job by Drew and EHC for catching that. So there's only 5 quarterbacks who have, listen, Jalen Hurts has done something that Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow have never done. Brock Purdy has been to a Super Bowl, but he has never won the Super Bowl. And I've asked this question before, and I'll ask it again. Why do we discredit being a championship winning player when everyone just demands you have to win a championship? Let's squeeze one more text before we hit the break. Rico chimes in at 609-403-0973 on the White Horse RV text board. He says, Josh Hurts can't make quick read and respond, which makes one worry about him playing behind center and turning his back on the defense. The key this year is whether he will run the thread, the QB draw when he is ready, willing to execute, is what Hurts led us to 2 Super Bowls. Rico, I got to disagree with you, man. I really do think that Hurts actually is at his best when he is getting the ball out of his hand quickly. I feel like when he holds the ball too much, that's when he makes mistakes. That's when he makes these throws that nobody understands, or he makes these plays that confuse people. I want him making a quick read and getting the ball out of his hand. I want him making a quick decision to, as you mentioned, hold the ball and run with the ball. I feel like Hurts is at his best when he's making those quick decisions, not when he's holding the ball too long. Because when he holds the ball too long, that's when you see the steam of the overthinking coming out of his head, and he looks frustrated. 5 o'clock hour coming in next. Josh Hennig playing for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
The Birds are back. Catch Philadelphia Eagles preseason football as the Eagles get ready for the 2026 season. Traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens Saturday night. Pre-game coverage starts at 6 with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7.
The catch is made by Henry, and he is just bounced down by Budejen.
What a great tackle by Budejen.
This is South Jersey's radio of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN.
What if you could have the most reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi? And get this, what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years guaranteed? Now through August 24th, new Xfinity customers can get our best price on gig Wi-Fi this summer before it disappears. Just $50 a month for 5 years. No annual contracts, no hidden fees, and our best equipment included. Plus, get online in minutes with same-day Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them. Like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a 6th sense. Plus, it keeps you protected from online threats. And get Peacock Premium included for 2 years. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities. Get it now at Xfinity.com. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds vary. Use of fiber coaxial cable. Learn more at Xfinity.com/same-day Wi-Fi.
WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort studio, here's Mike Gill.
Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, we have Phillies Fastball with Oscar Budejen coming up in about 30 minutes from now. We're talking a lot of Eagles, a lot of Phillies today. I saw some Phillies messages earlier in the show. Damn it, on the YouTube channel. We got to get back to the Phillies now because we do have the Phillies lineup to get to. That's being brought to you by Chachi's 13th floor at Rafichi's is now open. The fantasy football season is here, which means you need to book your fantasy football league draft party at Chachi's 13th floor above Villa Rafichi in Absecon for just $40 per person. Your draft package includes great food and cold beer. Chachi's 13th floor, proud partner of 97.3 ESPN. The Phillies lineup is your chance to win a gift card to Villa Rafichi by texting your name and where you're from. And if the Phillies score 13 runs, we will randomly select one winner for a $100 gift card. If the Phillies don't score 13 runs tonight, each week on Fridays, we randomly select one winner from the Texas throughout the week in the Sports Bash. And that person will receive a $25 gift card to Villa Rafichi. So text in right now your name and where you're from at 609-433-0973. Phillies lineup is Schwarber back at DH, Turner at shortstop, Harper back in right field, Luis Arias at second, followed by Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm at first, Brandon Marshall in left field, G2 Luco at catcher, Justin Crawford in center, and Aaron Nola is your pitcher for the game, which will be on Netflix tonight. Keep that in mind, folks. Not on NBC Sports Philadelphia, not on ESPN, not on Peacock. No, it's Netflix. Now, I am curious to find out this Field of Dream. I haven't seen anything. I got to check again. I've seen no reporting if this rain situation has dissipated, if it's still a problem. Let me look it up real quick because there was a huge concern last night about the weather situation in Iowa. All right, so we're going to do this live on the radio, but don't forget you can text in 694030973 your name and where you're from, and you're entered for our Chachi's 13th floor Phillies lineup giveaway contest. As the Phillies scored 13 runs tonight, you can win a $100 gift card. If they don't win, you are in the drawing for a $25 gift card. Again, to Chachi's. It's above Villa Rafichi in Galloway. All right. So I am going to go to virtually. I'm going to go to Iowa here. Check out what the weather is. Because again, there was a huge concern about. All right. So there is a 46% chance of showers tonight. Okay. Let's pull up an hourly forecast for Iowa. Let's see. It's 7:30 and 8:30. There's a 14% chance. So it looks like the chance of showers is going to be much later at night. So it looks like this game will happen tonight. So that's good news. Very left-handed hitting lineup again. They got, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lefties in a row, followed by Boehm. And then left, right, and then they go 6 lefties in a row from Crawford all the way back around the Stott. So the Phillies are saying Phillies don't seem to be too concerned with the lefty situation. I do like the fact that they're using Turner and Boehm as breaking guys up here and there, but yeah, I mean, Harper, Arias, Stott. So, but this was the side. This was the not the side. This was the side effect, I should say, of acquiring Arias, which is your lineup is still left-handed heavy. And I promised I would get to these Dave Dombrowski audios because Dombrowski was on John Heyman's podcast, okay? And I want to preface this audio by saying John Heyman seems to have a man crush on Dave Dombrowski, so it doesn't seem like there was a lot of hard-hitting question coming out of this conversation. But I did find a few things. We played some of the audio earlier of Dombrowski being surprised about how basically the offense has struggled this year. And so that I did find interesting. I will admit that. But there were a couple other things that he said that were maybe less perplexing and maybe more honest, I'll call it. So here was Dombrowski explaining the Phillies' reasoning why they went ahead and went after Luis Arias. He explained it first. They wanted a right-handed bat, but they didn't see a good enough option for them to go out and get a Joe Adell, a Taylor Ward, etc.
Going into the All-Star break and then coming out of it and going into the trading deadline, our real thought process is we'd like to come up with a right-hand hitting bat if we could. And really for us, it would have to be in the outfield because our infield was pretty well set. So for us, that's what we were trying to acquire. But the reality was there just were not many people out there, if any, as you mentioned. There were a couple of guys that we liked that we thought were more platoon-type outfielders. And we felt somebody like Brian De La Cruz, who just came up in our organization for the month of July, was pretty comparable to those type of bats.
So basically what Dombrowski is saying is that he looked at guys like Joe Adell and Taylor Ward as not being significantly better than what Brian De La Cruz can offer you. How much you buy into that or not, I don't know. But I did think it was an honest assessment by Dombrowski to explain, look, we didn't look at these guys as significant upgrades over what we have. And because of that, we weren't going to give up a lot of assets to go out and get Joe Adell, Taylor Ward, etc. And that's when he said it was because of them saying, you know, we're going to stick with Brian De La Cruz that opened the door for them to even consider going after Luis Arias.
The other thing that comes into play in this situation is that there are very few clubs who are really looking to move players. I think there's still 21 clubs within 5 games of a playoff spot at this time. So as we looked at the players available list, we just didn't see that impact right-handed bat that we could acquire. So that's where how could we get better offensively? And it led us to Luis Arias, who is leading the league in hitting, somebody that we like. And I think the key is he hits lefties and righties for us. It makes our lineup deeper.
So for Dombrowski, it was about how can we make the team better? Okay, fair. And listen, adding Arias in the most literal sense does make the team better. I just don't know what that means for the team long term. I think that for me, I think that, yes, you did improve by acquiring Luis Arias, but the idea being that they didn't have enough options out there to make other moves that would have been better than Luis Arias. It feels like a little bit of a settle. Now, again, I'm not going to judge Luis Arias off of just 10 games. I am not going to judge what he is for this team based off of just a small sample size. But now the rest of this team, and the rest of this team seems to be a problem. And that was the point that Dave Gallagher made to Mike Gill on the Sports Bash yesterday about Luis Arias. The hope was he was going to come in and change this team. But now maybe the weight that is on the locker room is now getting to Luis.
When he showed up, there was this boost in positive energy. You could see it as a fan. They could feel it as a team. And I was thinking, you know what, he's going to rub off on some guys. And he's going to help some hitters, Crawford, Stott, and not even lefties. It could be anybody, right? That was my thought. They're going to see it. They're going to see how he uses the whole field. He puts the ball in play. He doesn't strike out that much. I think it's been the other way around, that the team is wearing off on him because his enthusiasm seems to have disappeared all of a sudden. And that quote of misery loves company, I've lived that in baseball. You know, you think if everybody's failing, well, it doesn't look so bad when I do. And that's a horrible place to be as a team that's trying to, you know, be a championship team.
And I think that is where, you know, that's where Angie and Tuckerton chimed in earlier, because she said that, you know, Dave's comment yesterday about the team putting out Arias' fire as opposed to him being the spark. That's a huge problem, because that means that this Phillies team is so deep in the black hole. They're so far down the road. They can't pull themselves out of the mire that they are in. And if they're so deep down the hole that even a guy like Luis Arias isn't enough to elevate them back up, and they're just continuing to wallow in the mud of misery, then it really goes to what some people have said, that they need to blow the team up. But it's hard to blow a team up when you have $500 million invested in the 4 or 5 guys. They got a crazy amount of money moving forward invested in Harper, Turner, Schwarber, Nola. Just those 4. Now they got some money invested in Luzardo and Sanchez too. But Luzardo and Sanchez are not, they're not, you know, they're not burning a hole in your pocket like the other guys are. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have re-signed Schwarber or anything like that, because where would this team be without Schwarber, honestly? But it does make you wonder if this organization is that much of a problem that it's basically killing the spark that could be Luis Arias. It does make you question the state of the team. Now, when it came to the pitching, Dombrowski made another honest assessment where he explained they called almost everyone they could about starting pitching. But some of those teams, and Dombrowski admitted this before, some teams just didn't like what Philadelphia had to offer.
We called on anybody that was a pending free agent, without getting into specifics, but you can just, by the wording, just know that I think you properly do your job by touching base with everybody. And so when you're at that time with us, we had 29 other organizations that we were in touch. Some organizations didn't like our players as well as they liked other organizations. Some of them, we just decided we didn't want to give up what they were asking at that particular time.
So again, it's the admission that, hey, we called about everybody we could, which means they called about Kevin Gausman, they called about Robbie Ray, and they called about some of the guys who got moved at the deadline. But he said some teams didn't like what we had to offer, which goes back to his previous comment where he, you know, begrudgingly admitted that some teams don't like their farm system. And whether it has been with Phillies Fastball, when Mike Gill and Oscar Budejen and Jeff Kerr have conversations, whether it's Bob Wankel, who joins Mike Gill each week, whether it is, you know, national people like your Keith Laws of The Athletic or a Buster Olney of ESPN, they have all pretty much said the same thing in some capacity, that the Phillies minor league system is so far down the list of desirable desirable entities when it comes to number of prospects available, that the Phillies can turn to a team. And again, I'm not saying this is literally what happened, but I'm just using it as an example. The Phillies are their top 10 prospects, according to MLB Pipeline. All right. One of them is the outfielder Dante Nori. Another one is infielder Arun Escobar. Another one is shortstop Juan Parra. Again, these are top 10 prospects in the Philly system. So they may have called teams and said, hey, I got Nori. I got Parra. I got this guy, Alex McFarland. He's the top 15 prospect for us. They could have named Arun Escobar. They could have named anyone. And other teams may have said, hey, he's a top 10, 15 prospect for you, but he's not in our system. And that's where the larger issue is. Because again, how does the Phillies' assets and prospects compare to other teams? I mentioned Dante Nori is a top 10 prospect for Philadelphia. Okay? He's an outfielder. Well, guess what? He's not a top 10 outfielder prospect anywhere in Major League Baseball. How about Arun Escobar? Arun Escobar is one of the Phillies' top 10 prospects. Well, he is not one of the top 10 at second or short in all of Major League Baseball prospects. Neither is Parra. When it comes to pitching, look, Alex McFarland is considered one of the Phillies' top pitching prospects. He isn't in the top 10. Now, the guy is in the top 10 is Gage Wood. But the Phillies have said they're not trading him right now. And Dabrowski went on to explain that when they looked into pitching, which they needed pitching. Okay, we all knew that. But they basically said some of the trade values were just too high.
We did try to still pursue starting pitching. And I think there's different qualities of starting pitchers out there. One is, okay, are you talking about a guy who would definitely be one of your top 5 guys in your rotation? And then that would move Andrew Painter down to AAA. We explored some of those, probably not as hard as some other clubs would have done, because we felt our top 3 guys are still set. And we felt that when we talked about those, that the price of acquisition of those individuals were very, very high.
So that's an example of when, that he says the price was too high. So for the Phillies, they have a guy in Gage Wood who is their number 1 prospect right now. But the Phillies said, we're not trading him for a rental. We're not trading him for a guy that we don't think is better than Andrew Painter. We're not trading for a Kevin Gausman or a Robbie Ray and giving up one of our best pitching prospects. They probably said, we'll consider Alex McFarland. We'll consider Juan Parra, but not Francisco Renteria or a Gage Wood. And I'm going to assume the same thing happened with the Joe Adells, the Taylor Wards, etc. Again, The Phillies farm system is bottom 10 in Major League Baseball. They don't have a ton of guys who are among the best in baseball. In fact, if you go off of the MLB pipeline top 100 list, just the whole list, all 100, there's only 3 guys in the top 100. And the Phillies' highest rated guy isn't even top 25. Gage Wood is 33. Aiden Miller is 61. And Renneria is 81. So they got one guy in the top 50 and 2 other guys in the top 100. Now, by comparison, and again, I'm only using this as comparison, the Atlanta Braves got 2 in the top 50. Phillies got 1. If you look around the National League, the Brewers got 5 guys in the top 100. The Dodgers, that team that seems to always make trades that drives everybody nuts, they got 3 guys in the top 20. Phillies only have a guy until 33. So again, you're talking about Dave Dombrowski. I got to give him credit. He was honest. For as much as I get angry at him and I get tired of his braggadocious, pompous, I'm smarter than you, better than you attitude, he admitted, look, we tried, but we didn't think that Joe Adell and Taylor Ward are better than Brian De La Cruz. And we were not going to give up our best prospects, one of our top 3, to get those guys. We called 29 teams about their pitching, but nobody liked the guys in our system enough for them to say, yeah, I like Alex McFarland enough for me to take that guy to give you a Gosman or a Robbie Ray. So I think Dave Dombrowski is in a very huge predicament because, as we said earlier in the show, Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. We said it earlier in the show that when it came to the Phillies, they have a guy, Dave Dombrowski, who is surprised at the state of this team.
Over the last 6 weeks, couple months, we've been basically a 500 type club. Keep looking for us to really get it all together at one time. At times, our starting pitching has been absolutely outstanding, particularly our big 3. Our bullpen's been up and down. We got a tremendous closer, but been up and down. And so I think probably the biggest surprise for me is how we've scuffled to score runs on a consistent basis. We've been better over the last, I'd say, month even in that regard. But early in the year, we were near the bottom, and it really kind of surprised me because we have a lot of good offensive players. But as a whole, we just didn't click.
More Phillies talk coming up on the other side with Oscar Budejen from Phillies Fastball here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling for Mike Gill, 5 o'clock hour. The Sports Bash being brought to you by Cross County Connection, who wants to remind you that whether you're behind the wheel or on a bike, safety starts with following the law. New Jersey bicyclists riding at night must use white front light and red rear light visible from 600 feet away. Drivers, remember the safe passing law. Give at least 4 feet when passing people walking or biking, or slow down until it's safe. Share the road, save a life. This message from the New Jersey Division of Highway and Traffic Safety and Cross County Connection. Learn more at driveless.com.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
ZipRecruiter.
We have the perfect solution for sitting in traffic.
Come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
The 5 o'clock hour of the providing fare-free transportation across southern New Jersey. For details, call 856-229-7571 or visit driveless.com.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash. Time for Phillies Fastball, brought to you by Ventnor Social, the place to go. Catch every Phillies game on their 20 big screen TVs while enjoying great food and drink at the Jersey Shore. Visit their Facebook page for up-to-date info and specials. Plus, Sports Bash Mike Gill broadcasting live on location on Ventnor Avenue in Ventnor this summer. It's been a fun time for the boys down at Ventnor Social. Mike is with his baseball team in Jamestown, New York. I am here now for Phillies Fastball with the one and only Oscar Budejen joining us for Phillies Fastball today here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Oscar, we can only hope that corn means the Phillies will be a better team. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I mean, we've seen some of the images already coming in that the guys did the run around all the settings and all the areas. So look, hopefully they need a better vibe than the way they've been playing. I mean, they have been playing, talking about the best baseball or better baseball, like Mattingly wants to say. They've been playing pretty bad baseball lately. So look, it's there's no kidding around, right? I mean, it's in every facet. I mean, you cannot lose two starts by Christopher Sanchez and Zach Wheeler. The hitting is not there. The defense is inconsistent. So this team needs to start playing much better baseball, and hopefully the Field of Dreams give him a little bit of magic there.
For you, I've heard a lot of people talk about like the Phillies' approach at the plate. They've talked about, just not being, fully zeroed in. We had Dave Gallagher, former big leaguer, on yesterday. He talked about how he thought that Arias might have been the spark for this team, but maybe the team is just so deep down the black hole that they're dragging him down. What is your take on the state of this team? Because it feels like, Oscar, you know how Philly sports are. If they don't get this figured out in a few weeks, the Phillies are going to be forgotten once those footballs kick off.
I mean, more than forgotten is, look, with all the talent that you have, because let's be very, very clear, this team is very, very talented. I mean, how many teams have a Kyle Schwarber? How many teams have a Bryce Harper? How many teams have a Trey Turner? How many teams have a Zach Wheeler or a Christopher Sanchez and Luzardo as your top three? Very few teams in baseball can equal what the Phillies have. The thing is, are they playing up to the potential? And you need to start asking yourself the question, is the coaching the best coaching that can provide? Are we doing the appropriate, are we making the appropriate adjustments? Does the analytic team is doing the right thing? I think we need to question, the talent is there. There's no question in my mind that this is one of the most talented team in all of baseball. I think the question is, how do you fully explode the talent? I mean, from my own perspective, I don't think Mattingly, and I know he started really well. I mean, things are wearing off. I mean, there's some friction there between what he's saying and what the players are doing and what they're saying. So there's some unique dynamics there. I thought Mattingly coming in with his experience, with his pedigree as a hitter, that this team would go in and would go in the right direction. And look, started very hot, but now you see a significant decline. But look, I think the beauty of this is believe it or not, they're in a position where the future is in their hands. Look, it all depends on them. If they go out and play to their talent, they're going to make the playoff. If they don't play to their talent, it's like a pie in your face, right? I mean, it's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be ugly. And look, the window was there in 22, let's put 22 aside. The window was there in 23. The window was there in 24. The window was there in 25. Now we're on 26. What's happening is the window is becoming, is closing in very, very fast. And when you start looking at players 33, 34, 35 years old, there is not much to go around. And look, I've always believed that while Zach Wheeler pitches for this team at the quality of level of one of the elite pitchers in this game, this team has a chance. Over the last 4 outings, Wheeler has, I don't know if he tired out or what's going on. His velocity was down a little bit. I do believe he had a bad inning, and the defense have not helped him at all. So I think I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's been so good for this team for so many years that we just got to give it a little bit more time. This team is talented. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I'm very worried about the hitting, the approach to hitting. They are among the last teams in chase rate. They're amongst the last teams in strikeouts. They're among the last teams in terms of getting the smaller percentage or the lowest percentage in terms of base of balls. So there are issues. I mean, there are issues that need to be addressed, particularly on the hitting side. But your top three, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I was looking at a list yesterday. I'll tell you this, Judge. I was looking at a list yesterday of the top 10 pitchers in baseball right now, and Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler, and Jesus Luzardo were in the top three. How many teams have top 10? I mean, 3 players of top 10 talent. No other team.
No, I hear you. But to your point about the hitting, we talked about this earlier before you came on, Oscar. The Phillies have only scored 535 runs this year. There are 10 teams in the National League who have scored more runs. 3 of them are not making the play. The Rockies have scored more runs. The Nationals have scored more runs. The Pirates have scored 617 runs. Like the fact that you mentioned the Phillies have so much talent. So is it like, I'm not just going to say it's just because they're getting older. I feel like there's got to be something almost mental. Like I see Trey Turner sometimes, like the way he swings, it's like, well, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. When you look last year, we started very slow hitting. And then the second half of the year, basically we took off and we were top 5 in all categories in the second half of the year. That hasn't happened yet. Outside of Bryson Stott, and maybe Harper. Harper, I mean, has a 468 OPS in the last 17 games that he's been, he has a streak going of 17 games on base. So the issue has not been Harper. It's just Schwarber has been on a slump. Trey Turner hasn't gotten it all together. We've seen some signs of Trey Turner getting out of it, and now he falls down in the month of August. Look at Brandon March. I mean, he was one of the top hitters in all of baseball in the first 3 months of the year, and the last 2 months, I mean, he has an OPS of 400. It's just this team is very inconsistent. Arraez come to address a lot of issues. Arraez doesn't strike out. He's not an on-base machine, but he has a 360 on-base percentage, which is really good. And he doesn't chase baseball. So the reality is Arraez comes to address some of the gaps, but he's just one guy. The question, is he in the right place, hitting fourth behind Harper? I know Harper wants him behind him because he protects him. And you see the on-base percentage of Harper now he's gotten on base in the last 17 games, and Arraez have hit in a lot of those games. But if Turner is not getting on base and Schwarber, they were 0 for 4 in the last game. And it's just, we were 1 for 15 in the last 2 games with runners in scoring position. You're not gonna win games like that. We score 4 runs in 12 straight games. The last 2 games we score 1 run.
Oscar Budejen joining us for today's Phillies Fastball here on the Sports Bash. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Oscar, over the last 2 years, I've asked the question, when all the Castellanos stuff happened, right? And, at times when there's been the weird stuff going on, I always ask, who's the adult in the locker room? Who was the guy walking around keeping guys in order? Like, you go back to 93, they had Macho Rowe, right? 08 and 09, that was a strong locker room, right? There were men in that locker room. And I always felt like, okay, well, maybe getting rid of Castellanos and Matt Strom would be enough to recalibrate the locker room. But I got to ask you, Oscar, is there a guy in that locker room who's walking around and telling these guys, hey, boys, let's get our heads out of the sand?
I don't, and it's Schwarber. The boys, the connector of that clubhouse is Schwarber, no doubt about that. Schwarber would be the guy that would bring everybody up. He's the leader of that clubhouse. There's no doubt in my mind. Harper has always been Harper. Harper is no different than who Bryce Harper is. Harper is a guy that, focuses on trying to be the best version of Bryce Harper, while Schwarber is more of a connector. You see, for example, hitting earlier, they all come out to hit earlier when Schwarber goes out there, and I remember a couple of years ago, they were doing competitions, who hit the most home runs during batting practice, during certain periods of batting practice. So look, this team is connected. I don't have any doubt that the clubhouse is in good health. Topper was a guy that was, the dream player's manager. Now the question is, he never questioned anybody, and that was part of the issue. So Mattingly comes in, and I said, oh, Mattingly is a different type of leadership. He's going to challenge some of these guys, but I think he's rubbing off. I think, look, Mattingly has never, if you look at Mattingly's history, he's never been a great manager. I mean, he probably was not in the greatest team when he was with the Marlins. He had the opportunity to play with the Dodgers and during the great Kershaw years, and he's never won kind of the big game in his career. So you're going to have to ask yourself the question, is he the right leader for this team? I mean, there's a lot of questionable pitching moves that we've seen. And look, it's what it is. I mean, it's just, I mean, we cannot hide. I mean, we cannot hide the sun with one finger. I mean, this team is not performing to his optimum level, and it's concerning. And it's very, very concerning. And it makes me mad because you see a guy like Turner. Turner was brought here to say, look, he's the missing piece.
Yeah.
He hasn't been the missing piece. Last year, he had a good year. He hasn't been the missing piece. I mean, look at his defense. I mean, look what he's doing. He's been a detriment to the team in many respects in a great part of this year. First part of the year not hitting, and now the consistent fielding. He needs to bring it all together. The same thing, I mean, when you start looking at Brandon March, where's the Brandon March of the first half of the year? Please stand up because we need this guy. I mean, and that's the thing. It's just they're very inconsistent. They're very streaky, particularly the hitting part. I do believe that we have a lead starting pitching. I mean, the top three, particularly the top three, I'm telling you, there is no team in baseball has a top three like the Phillies. You know why I said when the trading deadline happened, I blame the Brewers for being the losers at the trading deadline. They had an opportunity to give a couple of prospects, very good prospects for Skubal. Look, if you're going to compete against the Dodgers, you need to imagine a combination of Misiorowski and Skubal as your 1-2 punch in the playoffs. Look, the Phillies have Wheeler, they have Sanchez, and they have Luzardo. Luzardo, I mean, in the last 3 months, he's pitching at a 2.25 ERA clip. So he's pitching really, really well. Luzardo is at a top notch. I mean, Sanchez, and look, it's the dog days of summers, and we call it for a reason. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. They're too good to not be tremendous. I mean, look what Wheeler has done in the postseason for us. Do any of us think that Wheeler cannot do this in the postseason? I don't. I believe the guy's going to be absolutely elite when the postseason starts. So, look, to me, it's not about starting pitching. I do believe the bullpen is a big, big issue. I like the acquisition of Riley. Brooke Riley is going to help this team. I mean, the other guy, he was okay. I mean, he got hurt now. I mean, I'm fine. I like McFarland. That kid has potential, 100 miles an hour. I love his slider. I do believe he has tremendous potential.
He's got to throw more first pitch strikes. That's all.
I mean, look, 2 outings. I mean, he's pitched twice in Major League Baseball, but I see the potential. See, you can see a guy. I saw that guy throwing the other day against Walker, and this kid is going. I mean, against Burlington, this kid has potential. I like what I saw in him.
No, he definitely has potential. I wish they would have started using him sooner than.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a potential trade deadline chip, and it didn't pan out. And now I think he'll have a nice opportunity now to show what he has. But I really, really like this kid and his potential.
Corey, also, Dombrowski admitted to John Heyman on John Heyman's podcast. They called 29 teams. Not all 29 teams like their prospects. It's like, well, that's what you get when you have a weak farm system.
Yeah, I mean, and people say, no, it's not a weak farm system. Look, it is a weak farm system. I mean, it was rated 22 by Major League Baseball. Baseball America just rated it 28th or whatever, 29th. I don't remember the exact number.
28th,
way back. 28th?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, can this team bring it together? I do believe there's enough of, I mean, the talent is there. I mean, I do believe the Padres is going to make the playoffs. I think the Padres are going to, it's going to be, to me, there is one spot left for the Phillies, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Marlins. Marlins lost today badly. So, and they had gotten to one game out of first place, but now they fell down today. Hopefully the Phillies can get a Twins team that have not been playing in full cylinders today. I love the fact that they're at the Field of Dreams. By the way, you haven't looked at it. Look at the shoes, the cleats of Bryson Stott. I mean, he has some of those guys, the Holidays of the world, the Halas of this world, the Roberts, some of the Ashburns of this world, some of the guys that represented so much for the Phillies. I love that he did that. And it's going to be a very special place. And look, we're getting the Twins at the right time. Actually, Broxton, maybe he should move dugouts, and we'll be a lot happier. But he got activated today. He got activated today from the IL, so he's going to be playing tonight.
According to ESPN Analytics, the Phillies have a 46% chance of making the postseason. That is 7th in the National League, according to ESPN Analytics. And Oscar, before I let you go, I got a little stat for you. Aaron Nola has not recorded a win in his last 13 starts. It is one shy of the longest streak by a Phillies pitcher in the last 10 seasons. That pitcher, Oscar, was Jared Eichhoff.
Wow. That goes a long time. Look, you know what? It has not been because of Nola. It has been because of the lack of run support.
Correct. Exactly.
Listen to this. In 6 of the last 7 start of Nola, he's allowed 2 or 3 runs. I mean, so it is not on Nola. It isn't our hitting that needs to. Now, I am very concerned today. I told you, I always tell Mike that Nola is going to allow a home run. I saw the wind today in the cornfields. Believe me, that thing is blowing from left to right. So be careful. Be aware of flying objects in this stadium today. I do believe Schwarber is going to hit a home run today. Be careful. Those corns, there might be some corns on the cup coming after Schwarber hits some of those home runs today.
Oscar, I've said poor Nola probably feels like it's 2018 all over again. He's out there trying to do his job. He's only giving up 1 or 2 runs, and the team can't score 1 or 2 runs. Man. He's like, watch what happens today. Nola's going to give up 1 home run because he always does, right? And then the Phillies will lose like 2-1.
Yeah, look, it's going to be, I believe it's going to be a tie game. It could be a high-scoring game. I'm imagining it will be a high-scoring game, but our bats need to wake up. I mean, we cannot continue go for 1 for 15 in the last 2 games with runners in scoring position.
Oscar Budejen, Phillies Fastball each day here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Oscar, we will recap it all tomorrow on the Sports Bash.
See you tomorrow. Go Phils.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, Phillies Fastball is brought to you by Ventnor Social, the place to go to catch every Phillies game on their 20 big screen TVs while enjoying great food and drink. Visit a Facebook page for up-to-date info and specials. And, of course, that is where the Sports Bash with Mike Gill is broadcasting all summer as Ventnor Social on Ventnor Ave in Ventnor. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show with Did You Know on this day? That's coming up next on the Sports Bash.
We have the Phillies covered.
Swing and a drive, right field, way back, forget it, out of here. Kyle Schwarber hammers one over the right field wall.
Get the best Phillies baseball coverage on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Go to get your game on at the Fanatic Sportsbook in the Gallery at Ocean Casino Resort. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go where fans become fanatics at the Fanatic Sportsbook in the Gallery. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
T-Mobile is launching something no other wireless network offers. Introducing Nothing. Pay nothing today and walk out of the store with a new phone.
What did he say?
Nothing.
You definitely said something about nothing.
Exactly. Go to T-Mobile, pay nothing up front, and leave with a new phone.
Wait, nothing rules.
She gets it.
Hey, thanks for nothing.
For the first time ever, switch to T-Mobile, pay nothing. No taxes, no fees, no money down. And walk out with a new phone. There are 250 reasons to choose T-Mobile, and now nothing is holding you back.
On eligible devices with qualifying credit plan and 36-month finance agreement.
Fantasy football season is here. Book your fantasy football league draft at Chachi's 13th floor, above Villa Raffici and Absecon. For just $20 per person, your draft package includes great food and cold beer. Chachi's 13th floor, proud partner of 97.3 ESPN and the official sports bar industry Ace Restaurant.
The times you spend with your friends and loved ones are the best. Those selfies you take now will shape memories that will last a lifetime. Make sure you stay in the picture and stay away from fentanyl. Only 2 milligrams of fentanyl can cause an overdose. So learn about the dangers and risks of this frightening, deadly drug at stayinthepic.nj.gov. Don't risk your life and all those wonderful memories you're creating. Stay in the picture and stay away from fentanyl. Know all the risks. Visit stayinthepic.nj.gov from New Jersey Human Services.
You're listening to The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
The 5 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Cross County Connection, providing fare-free transportation across southern New Jersey. For details, call 856-229-7571 or visit driveless.com.
ESPN with Do You Remember? I got 3 for you today that we're going to hit on. Let's start with some baseball because tonight is the Field of Dreams game, Phillies versus Twins on Netflix. In 2016, on today's date, August 13th, Yankees rookies Tyler Austin and Aaron Judge became the first teammates to hit their first career home run in their first at-bat of the same game. It's actually a tale of two cities when you think about it, because Aaron Judge and Tyler Austin were two of the Yankees' top prospects when they came up in 2016. Tyler Austin's career got derailed by knee injuries and a plethora of other issues. Although he did play 8 years in Japan, he never was the same player as he was before the knee injuries, while Aaron Judge went on to become one of the best power hitters in all of baseball. Also on this day in 2016, Michael Phelps and the U.S. men's 4x100 team won the gold medal in the final race of the 2016 Olympics, giving him 23 gold medals for his career, the most all time in Olympic history. And finally, on this day, August 13th, 1979, the one and only Lou Brock got his 3,000th hit. He was the 14th player at the time that joined the 3,000 hit club, all on this day in 1979 and 2 in 2016, August 13th. Thanks to everyone who listened on 97.3 ESPN today. Thanks to Oscar Budejen, Paul Hudrick, Andrew Dicecco for joining the show. And thanks to all of you, whether you tune in to 97.3 ESPN FM, watching on YouTube and X. Thanks to all who watch. I'll be back in for another day tomorrow. Happy Hour Friday on the Sports Bash. Have a great night, everybody.
Hi, this is Billy Schwein. Join me, Dan Adams, Jack Brooks, Tom McCann, and Eric Wolf for 97.3 ESPN's live broadcast of the South Jersey Lifeguard Championships. It's the granddaddy of them all, live from the beach in Avalon.